to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Muteless on the forum.
And this is Parker. Go by Tweak on forums.
This is Jeremy. Again, I don't follow any of the forums. I don't believe in it at all. It's unbelievable. Hashtag unbelievable.
You disbelieve that forums exist or that their use is good?
I think they're an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's basically a flat earther when it comes to forums.
Yes.
Well, it's probably that he thinks that they're propaganda developed by the fake birds.
Mm-hmm.
It took you long enough to figure out my whole thing. Yes, it's the fake birds.
Jeremy's deal is that he doesn't believe in birds. Look it up. It's a real thing. You know, my old roommate Brian actually had to tell me that the birds aren't real is an actual conspiracy theory. I was like, okay, yeah, we've officially made flat Earth seem realistic.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah, so moving into quick announcements, other than Jeremy's part of the cult, is Parker's probation continues. Mm-hmm. And with that, the news.
News. All right, so what we've got is the big news, perhaps what I think is big news, is the new banned list. We know that they got new cards got banned. Restricted and banned. The main ones that got banned was the Hired Muscle. Now banned. Gone. Finito. No more. I'm just going to leave that right there. I'm going to let that simmer right there. What do you guys think about that?
So to me, that's pretty obvious. That is kind of up there with Drop Off. That card's effect was way too potent for a one-cost card. If it was like one cost per token moved even, it would probably be more reasonable. It's just that it shouldn't cost one.
Yeah. They both spoke about it, the Wills, and again, things that make the game unfun generally will always get banned. So those were gotcha moments that if you didn't have a handful of games under your belt and didn't realize what was about to happen to you, you were sitting there like a Mortal Kombat fatality, like, well, the game's over on turn one. This is a lot of fun. And they kind of spoke on that in depth I think they did, didn't they do a live thing on Facebook or something? But I know on other podcasts they've actually gone on and discussed it in depth. And it always goes back to fun. If you feel bamboozled by some sort of move, and that's their word, they use bamboozled a lot, it's probably going to be restricted or banned.
So just had to think about, like, I like to think about motivation when I see like banned lists and things like that. So they put it in the game because they just hoped people wouldn't bamboozle other people, or maybe they just didn't have the foresight to think that bamboozlement was going to be what people used it for. Because it is a bamboozle card. Like, obviously that's what it is, right? It's like, oops, you don't get it.
They intended it to be as much of like a points rush as it was. Like, they didn't anticipate the lack of counterplay. Because it's kind of like... trying to think of like a reference to another game. It's like, you know, like the Top of One Assassinations. It's like, well, we made this to have like incredible threat range and tempo, but we didn't realize that you could take it to this extreme. And as it was getting to that point, we realized there's no counterplay. Like, what's the counterplay for Hired Muscle? Play Hired Muscle first. Like, as soon as you get into that like logic loophole of like, well, nothing counters it if you have priority, then what are you supposed to do?
When the card that counters your card is the same card, that's always a problem.
Right.
And they brought that up as well.
Yeah. Well, I totally see why they put it on the banned list. That's actually not what I'm worried.
What they said...
It's mostly just like, why was it even in the game to begin with?
I mean,
why did anybody think, oh, this is a good idea?
No,
like,
so think of the theme of it. That's why they put it in the game. It was 100% how that feels. Kingpin's like, I'm going to go bully some dudes around and push money and push people around, and I'm going to do that. So that was the idea behind it. So it had several iterations. This one landed. They play tested it. And the thing is the world is a humongous play group. They just have the number of people and the number of games. So yeah, that's what happened. I mean, they
Okay.
wanted something cool and fun.
I guess when I look at drop off, I go, yeah. When you make drop off, it sounds cool and fun, and it's only later that you realize with new cards and new players, new characters with flight, new other tactics cards, it starts to become too abusable. So you have to ban it eventually. But Hired Muscle, there's not really an interaction with it. It's just a really really stupendous card, and I see your point. They made something that was more of a fluff experience, and it ended up being a very negative play experience.
Yeah, I think I actually like the concept of the mechanic, like the ability to move civilian tokens around on the table with an action card. Like that seems fine. I like the concept of it. The problem is just that it's too good for its cost. Like they wagered basically two, because if you make it a 2-cost card, right, then it seems basically unusable. Because who has 3 power to really take advantage of it? There's very few characters that can really go up, play a 2-cost Hired Muscle, and still have power to pick up the token. And if you don't have power to pick up the token, then your opponent just walks up and takes it from you anyway, and you've spent a card to not do a lot. So it's kind of puts you in this weird spot so you kind of have to make it 1 cost. And then when you make it 1 cost, then it's too good. So it's just like, there's like no middle ground. Maybe it should have been place a token within range 2, not within range 3. It was clearly just an oversight. The card ended up being too good for its cost.
Okay. So on to, if you guys are we ready to talk about the restricted stuff?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. So first restricted card, we called it. We gave it an 8 rating in one of our ratings, Team Tactical ratings episodes. All You've Got is now restricted, along with all the other, all the healing cards and Doom Prophecy. So All You've Got is now restricted.
I think I verbatim said if Doom Prophecy is restricted, this card should be restricted as well. But I know you guys were right there with me. It's not like anyone was surprised by that statement. It's a very, very good card. I don't know. We have a lot of cards on the restricted list at this point.
So another note of something they had said, the game designers, and I like this idea too. It's some of these cards that are on there are not only on there because they're really, really good and should be really thought about, before choosing them, and you don't get to choose them all. The side note of it, and it seemed to be very, very important, is that a new player coming to the game can not only look at all the tactics cards and say, well, I'm going to start with 2 of these because they're really good. Kind of gives you an easy mode. And then it also says that a new player coming to the game can look at your list and say, wait, those are 2 restricted cards. Why are they that good? And it's almost like a flag. It puts a flag on those specific cards. And that was a concept that they brought up several times that I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I can see it because they create very gotcha swings, man. Like both of those cards that you mentioned are from the same pool. Like the just tons of damage puked out and you lose a few characters that you were not expecting to lose. Both of those things can do that. Now, the side note to that is you can still use it. You can still use that card, All You Got, on the models that you really want to use them on, and it doesn't really change that. It doesn't change, like, it doesn't stop, Thanos or MODOK from doing exactly that still. Some of those models don't need all those healing cards, because really that's what you're talking about, right? When it comes to restricted cards, you're trying to figure out 1 card that you need to heal, if not 2. If you include field dressing, but some of those other cards or some of the other models that you're using it on really doesn't change what you're doing. But it does put a little flag and it says, hey, your opponent needs to look at these. What are you about to do with that? Like heads up, which is an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all that All You Got landed on the list, although I thought we were probably going to see a card come off the list if it made it on. Like, I think Doom Prophecy, while still being very good, is, I think, worse than All You've Got, in my opinion at least, or at least the way I look at building lists. So I was just surprised that they're both on there now.
They did say that cards can come off, and they have talked about pulling them off. Like it doesn't have to be there forever. That. Yeah.
Also, I think we might see later on down the road if these cards are considered not as bad as originally thought, or maybe we're just waiting for other mechanics to make it into the game to make them not seem as bad. Like if they do decide that drop off or Doom Prophecy are acceptable, then as they come off the list, we might see new cards printed that are similar in power level. And so, like, for example, if Medpack was in the core set instead of Patch Up, it would probably have immediately been restricted. And then as more healing cards come out, it might seem not as powerful in effect. It's mostly that there's no other, like, parallel to it is why it's so good. And so I don't know if that came off well is what I'm trying to say. But basically, as an effect in the game, if it's a single card that does set effect, like maybe we'll get more field dressings later that will do more field dressing type things where you're able to remove a Daze token in some way. But right now, field dressing's the only one, so it's like the center of power. And so every list would have it because it's the only option for that effect. So where if more field dressing type cards come out later, maybe it'll come off the restricted list. And that way it won't be, because there'd be more options for it. And so it won't be as singularly powerful. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but...
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if there was 10 cards that did what Hired Muscle did, we wouldn't worry about it, right? It's just a thing.
Right.
Like, everybody's got their version.
Right.
They have not made another universal healing card in a while. So
Yeah.
that seems to be something they did initially, and they're like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, and maybe they just wanted to get out the healing cards as like a base and then see how the meta developed around them before they moved on. Because I guess, when was Medpack released? I'm going to check real quick. I've got this pulled up. Because that was the last generic healing card. 16. Yeah, so, God, almost 25 releases ago?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit.
And everything else has been very specific, like the Wolverine healing card, the Weapon X thing.
Yeah.
Like,
well, even like We Are Groot, which is only the next set, release number 17. So, yeah, it's important stuff. But like, I'm kind of thinking like for Brace, like what if Brace is only restricted because it's the only one? I don't know. I don't want to see cards like Brace get put in every list, but I'm just curious. But I have a lot more I want to say about the restricted Tactics cards, but we have more stuff to talk about first.
Yep. The very last restricted one, of course, for the very first time ever, a Crisis card on the restricted list. So you can no longer play this Crisis card and these Tactics cards, and it is the Panic Grip City as evacuation efforts continue.
Nice. I'm very unhappy about this particular banning. I play Panic in pretty much every roster just because it's easy and generic. I was very upset that this got restricted. I have to pick a new extraction card now.
So the example of why this got banned, there's a streamed game that happened pretty recently, and on TTS, it is the league that was put together with just basically asking the top 8 players from the TTS leagues to play each other and just see how it goes. What's that? The Invitational, yeah. So the game was played, and this was in the semifinals. And the winner of that game was playing this scenario. He won the game without making an attack roll. He grabbed everything and ran backwards with it, and then spent to evacuate all of his tokens and won the game without rolling a single attack die. And that's exactly why this thing got restricted, which restricting it means it's banned. Like, who's going to take it? You get a 33% chance of actually pulling it. Like, it's done.
That was what I was going to say is banning a Crisis card, while seemingly not that big of a deal, is so much harsher than banning or to restricting a Tactics card, because you only get to choose which color you're taking 50% of the time, and even then there's a 1 in 3 chance you still won't get to choose it, on top of the fact that you're giving up field dressing or Medpack or all you've got for a Tactics card. Like, oh my gosh, it's might as well just ban it, like, at that point. Harsh.
Yeah, that one's a brutal one, and I like that one too. Like, I never played it in that way, but I see how you could. But again,
no, I definitely thought it was abusable, because I know there was that one game we played where you scored like 6 points off of extracts, and it was just like, man, that's hard to come back from.
Yeah,
just because, and it wasn't like you were trying to go for it or anything. It was just like, well, you had MODOK, and was it MODOK and someone else too? It was things like MODOK and Strange or somebody. It was a while back, but you had 2 characters that generated a lot of power. And it just kept happening. It's like, oh, MODOK dazes that guy. You drop a token. It's like, well, MODOK has 10 power, so I guess I spend 7 and score 2. And I'm like,
Yeah, I do remember that
it
game.
just kept happening like perfectly. You would daze me with the last attack and I have all this power left. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, and your opponent can't get a swing turn because that
Right.
objective's gone.
Yeah, it's gone forever. And if you get it early because your opponent didn't respect the power, because these are also civilian tokens, so hired muscle works on them. So if you get priority and they don't go for a token on the first turn, they're basically screwed because you're going to end up with all 4,
Mhm.
and then you're going to score 4 points at the end of your turn. And if you can get the power, you'll probably score 4 more next turn and then extract them on turn 3 for another 8 points. And so that's 16 points.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you can win on turn 3 without scoring even a secure point.
Which, for exactly those reasons, it just wasn't okay.
Right. And I get it, but it just seems like, man, I almost want to watch that game to see what happened. It feels like you should be able to do something about that, but maybe you just didn't have the faction to do it. Because I know some factions aren't as great at, like, controlling models. Because
Mhm.
once you see what's happening, you should be able to dig a couple of them out.
Yeah, apparently it's like the perfect game that shows exactly what can happen when a skilled player is just playing the game exactly to win. I mean, it just
Yeah.
it did exactly what it needed.
It makes me concerned because that's kind of what happened in War Machine. Is like one game became the example to like completely change the meta with bans and restrictions and erratas. And
Well,
I just don't want to see that happen.
The developers did say that they came across that before that game caused anything, because what they did is they ran into using hired muscle plus that crisis, and they were like,
Yeah.
wait a second, this is dumb. So
Yeah.
part of that plus the community's voice kind of did it.
So it's really just the evacuation piece, the fact that you can make the piece disappear and you couldn't
Oh, yeah.
possibly
No,
play against it. Yeah.
The mission is very generic outside of that. It's just that you can spend power to destroy an objective, and it gets you points.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if they had upped the cost, like maybe if they had the option to errata cards, what if they upped the cost to 8 power to delete a token? Because that makes it much less achievable in the early turns. I wonder if that would have been enough to keep it in play. But they're not doing erratas, they're only fixing like wording mistakes. And so I'm curious if maybe we'll see another mission later down the road that's very similar, but just adjusted enough to where it's not as abusable. Kind of like the special delivery drop-off interaction, where it's just like, we're just going to tone it down a bit and then re-release it.
I actually
Yeah.
love the fact that they're being so aggressive with banning and restricting. I mean,
Yeah.
it keeps the game fresh. It really does. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to see the same bullshit all the time. And that's just what it'll become. It'll be just like War Machine if they do. Just let the shit pile up and you get the top 4 players in their lists, and that's just what happens.
Mhm.
And it's just stupid.
Alrighty, so is that the end of the restricted list?
It is.
Alrighty.
A small bit of news. We got the Captain America model. We got to see him again. He's going to be the Falcon Cap, and the model looks pretty cool. I like it a lot. Some people are a little disappointed by the little smoke thing on
Spoilers.
the bottom, but
Hey, not everyone's watched episode 6, man.
it's from the comics, and yeah, if you
Not everyone's watching. Yay, this isn't the comics, Parker.
Yeah, fine. So Captain America Falcon, Captain America / Falcon is a thing in the comic books for years, and now he has a model. We have a little bit of spoilers coming from Ye Olde Canada. In Canada, they actually have access to the X-Force boxes already, and so we know some of the things coming out of those boxes. We actually kind of scoured the internet looking for anybody actually putting it up on purpose, and we couldn't find it. We only heard.
Failure.
So we know that Cable is coming with a mission that's 14 points. It is a secure mission that if you're controlling a point, it lets you move another character. That's as far as we know right now, so we don't know like what the deployment position is for those points or how many there are. But apparently you get to move other characters around if you control the point.
I'm going to go ahead and speculate wildly. It's going to be Deployment Bravo.
Can you imagine playing that and then also playing the civilians that punch you in the face and like move you
The
around
ones
and
that
stuff?
punch you? Oh, the ones that move you. The spider
Yeah.
infected, yeah.
They move you. So MODOK plus the moon base plus your guys are just everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, hell, the spider infection's already pretty bad.
All right. We found some new tactics cards in the MCP database. First one is Warpath. It's got Colossus on it for card art. And it says, it's a reactive card, unaffiliated. After an attack that damaged an allied character is resolved, the damaged character may spend 1 power to play this card. This character may advance short towards the attacking character. So it's a responsive move after being damaged for 1 power.
So this is aggressive for 1 power.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. That lines up with the escort to safety card. Or sacrifice, which is bodyguard. Okay. All right. What's next?
Next is kick 'em while they're down. It is unaffiliated active card. Any character may spend 2 power to play this card. Choose an enemy character. When targeting the chosen character with attack this round, allied characters may reroll 1 attack die for each special condition the chosen character has. So you're getting rerolls per special condition on an enemy, but this card has infinite range. Any character just spend 2 power.
I actually like this. This is pretty cool.
Yeah,
because it's specific to certain people that can exploit it, like obviously Crystal and what's her name, Scarlet Witch are probably gonna be able to abuse this more than most.
Hawkeye would like it.
Hawkeye's another good one. Star-Lord's another good one. But yeah, it's not just unanimously good, but lots of dice rerolls is really cool, and it's unaffiliated. That's nice. It
also makes it gives you. One of the things I've seen in this game is because, people tend to die so quickly, oftentimes characters will just leave a condition on them. Like, ooh, I'm poisoned, whatever. Like, I'll just play poison now. Like, conditions often just say, play with this effect. Unless it's stagger or stun, most of the time you don't shake it. So, this gives you, basically, if you see this, when your opponent's got it, it gives you a reason to maybe shake things, because you don't want to be kicked while you're down.
Also wouldn't probably be terrible with Web Warriors because they can auto-apply slow with All Webbed Up, and it stacks with it. Because if All Webbed Up became, add 2 dice and reroll 1, and then also any of the other effects you do.
Right.
Because they also apply bleed really easily with Venom.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right.
That's cool.
So what's next?
Kunlun Training. It's really cool card art. Iron Fist is teaching Black Widow some kung fu in the mystical realm of Kunlun. It's an unaffiliated reactive card. When an allied character is attacking or defending, before the calculate successes or failure step at the end of the modified dice step of the attack, it may spend 4 power to play this card, reroll all the attack dice.
That's very wordy for reroll the attack dice.
Yeah. I guess it's just exactly when you do it.
Well, yeah, so they have to specify the trigger timing. So the important part there is that they've already used their dice mods, and so if you're playing it against someone like MODOK, they can't then again re-roll their dice.
Mm-hmm. And it's flexible. You can do it on offense or defense. So if you have 4 power, you can re-roll your own.
Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite of Book of Truth.
Mm-hmm. I also like it because if you have anything that, like if you're attacking somebody and somebody modifies your attack dice with an effect, then you could go, okay, you modified my dice, so I'm going to reroll now.
All right,
God,
so
4 power's a lot.
I'm just trying to think of the most complicated attack roll you can have now, because you'd be like, all right, I'm going to do my rerolls, then you do your rerolls, then I'm going to play Book of Truth, then you're going to play Recal, then someone else is going to play, or someone's going to use Vapors of Valtor, then you're going to use Kunlun Training.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. All right. We got one more?
Yep. Illicit Tech. It's an unaffiliated active card, but Crossbones or Sin has to be the one to use it. They spend 1 power to do an attack. They use the attack is the Ex-Bosun plasma rifle attack. It's a range 5, 6 dice attack. After the attack is resolved, this character gains power equal to the damage dealt. So you spend 1 power to do it, but it is a gaining attack. Mm-hmm. After this attack is resolved, the target character and enemy characters within range 2 of it gain the Incinerate special condition. This attack can only have dice added to the attack roll from crit results, and this character cannot modify its attack dice during this attack.
That's going to be on pretty much every attack card from now on. ever since Sabretooth can no mercy his spellbook attack. They're like, oops, let's not allow this anymore.
Yeah.
Friday AI the spellbook for me, please.
Now see, this card is, I think, a great example of it's flavorful and it does something. It's proactive and it gives Incinerate.
Compare this to the earlier attack cards, though, because this costs 1 power on 1 character, and the other ones cost 2 or more power on 2 or more characters.
Right.
And it does a negative effect, and it's a quality attack. A 5/6 energy is solid.
And it gives you power back. You actually, if you do any damage,
it's a gainer.
it gives it back.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a gainer.
It's very solid.
It actually doesn't slow down. Its attack discard doesn't slow down your turn. It might actually speed it up and get you to other things you want to do.
Yeah. And it gives Crossbones something to do while he's standing around being a dumbass.
Yeah. Crossbones, hey, not
look,
such
I
dumbass.
bought a gun. Boom! Good job, idiot. Shut up and press the red button. We also know about the demolition card from that's going to be released with them as well. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's new stuff we found on Marvel on the database today. So Quicksilver got his panel to play. We know that Quicksilver goes fast. Spoiler alert. He is speed long and he has wall crawler. Although they'll probably name it something else because it's functionally wall crawler though. For 2 power,
he has wall crawler.
Is it wall crawler?
He has. Yeah, they say at the end he has wall crawler.
Oh, I want it to be. I want it to be called something else. Anyway,
do we really want a bunch of rules that do the exact same thing?
Yes.
No, we don't.
He doesn't crawl on walls. He runs on walls. Moving forward, 2 power. Quicksilver puts on blinding speed, and basically gives him an extra long movement. However, he can't be holding an objective token. They've said that he cannot spend 2 power to move an objective token for an extra long.
Well, I believe they specifically say he can't be holding a Kree power core, actually,
or a Celestial Hammer.
Celestial Hammer.
I don't think it's actually those 2 things. I think it's any token.
That would be the worst rule ever.
May not carry hammer. May not carry. It's very specific.
No, may not use. This character cannot activate the superpower as it is currently holding a Celestial Hammer or a Kree power core objective token.
Yeah.
Do you know how awful he would be? He would be such a pain in the ass if he could, move long twice, grab something, and then move long away. Oh my god! I can't
wait for someone to post the meme of him talking to Magneto. It's like, why are you holding my neck? Whiplash. He's like, yeah, he can move with civilians only.
Of course, he could still kind of do this, right? Because if he is within 2 long movements, he just moves for his first action, spends 2 power, moves. He would still get your 3 different movements interrupted with a pickup. He could still do that, right?
If you're picking it up that turn, it is theoretically possible, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you needed to move to then attack somebody to get the power to pick it up and do the power, then no. And
right.
So there's situations, obviously, but it's potentially possible, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see him going. Because of things like this, I see him going onto teams that can give him 1 power at the beginning of turns without using even R&D. I think that'd be cool. Like Inhumans, I think it's really it, right? Inhumans would be the only ones who can do it without R&D. But
well, I mean, you can reduce the cost with Avengers.
Oh, that's right. Put him on Avengers because he's going to be an Avengers.
He's going to be an Avenger.
Yeah, I'm going to make my Quicksilver, Cable, Avengers, quote unquote team.
Did you see the update to the affiliation list today?
Today?
Yeah, they updated the Avengers team. They actually updated the Avengers team. It just says all characters now.
I knew that was coming.
Cabal,
I knew
everyone else.
I could see the gleam in your eye.
Yeah.
That was BS. Okay. We also know that he has the ability to use his power on the offense as well. So both of his attacks draw on his speed and mobility, meaning his supersonic strike, which is his basic, lets him do hit and run stuff, and has dash, a new special rule that lets him carry momentum into another attack. So he could possibly be chaining attacks, moving in between these things, which is exactly perfect for Quicksilver.
Yeah, I did want to cover that actually because they actually clarified it in the battle report that we talked about last week.
Mm.
If he rolls a hit and a wild, he gets to make another attack targeting another character. And if he rolls a block and a critical, he gets to move short and so you combine the two if you roll all 4 results, and so he gets to move and attack.
That's cool. I really like that.
But since it's range 3, it's actually plausible they won't need to move in between attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only, I believe it's like a 4 dice, right? His builder's only 4 dice, so God help you. He's not a fighter.
I'm kind of curious if his move will let him get the extra 2 dice like Miles and Peter do.
Mm-hmm.
Where
I doubt
when he gets the extra move, he gets 2 extra dice. I could see it, but I don't think it's likely since he's only 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very much a speedster. Also, that kind of one of the things I do not like about speedsters in any comic book is that, like, the physics of them actually touching someone with their regular bones, it just makes no sense. Just like Quicksilver, like, I'm going to punch you at super speed. As soon as he nicks you, all his bones are shattered, right?
Yeah.
Like, his vascular system explodes, blood fires from every orifice, right? Because of, like, the pressure, the instantaneous, physics of that would be so dumb.
The velocity hitting your body would just be like unbearable.
Right. Now, it's possible that if he has a lot more mass than the object is hitting, that would also something similar would happen to them as well. But and a lot of they've retconned it to be that speedsters, in their incredible perception of time as it's being slowed down, the instant before it actually hits, they decrease their velocity and they decelerate to the point at which they're not striking with a ridiculous force. They're just striking with, an average athlete's force. And that does explain it a little bit. But still, that means that when Quicksilver hits you, he's not hitting you with, a thunderous blow. He's hitting you with a regular dude punch.
Not supersonic light speed, momentum attacks.
Right.
But at the same point, then how do they accelerate while, like, picking up a wrench? Like, it would rip their arm off. Like, that doesn't explain that.
Well, it's the same. It's the same idea. The idea is that they basically, it's not the moment they pick up the wrench. The precise nanosecond they're picking up the wrench. They're not exercising the super speed. They're accelerating and decelerating. And for a mutant like Quicksilver, who was born with it, well, I guess actually, like that's kind of a retcon because he's also
effectively born since he was young.
Yeah. But it's also like high evolutionary, like fucked with him. But anyway, since he was young, he had the powers. The idea is that it's almost like a defense mechanism, like blinking whenever you're about to be attacked in the face. It's not something that a speedster has to think about. It just kind of happens that your body automatically knows that if you just start raking your fingers across even a light physical surface at super speed, the friction will burn them right off, right? So they don't do that precisely. But
what? They just need to accept the railgun mechanic where you pick up a wrench, start running at somebody, and you let go of the wrench and turn, and just let the wrench go through them.
Just drive through them. One of my favorite in the Ultimates comic, in the Ultimate Universe, Quicksilver fights another speedster, and they're fighting at super speed. And he says, how fast did they ever take you up to? Like Mach 1, Mach 2? He's like, I was hitting those speeds when I had pimples. And he takes her so fast her molecules start vibrating, and she basically just disintegrates because he's just moving so fast. The friction against her body, like she can't take it. He can go so much faster than her. They don't explain how he can take it, but just that he can. So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. The super speed thing, they play with the physics sometimes to make it cool, but then they ignore the physics sometimes to make it possible. So we also know that he has some innate superpowers to keep him alive. Like I think we already knew that that was spoiled in the stream. We know that he rerolls defense dice, and so they mentioned that he has defensive powers as well. But yeah, that's what we know about Pietro.
Jeremy, what's your thoughts on Quicksilver?
Kind of a boring 3-pointer. He's fast. Okay.
Fuck you.
Look, I like to hit things.
Fuck you.
I like to hit things really hard. Now, he'll be Brotherhood, right? He'll be part of Brotherhood.
He's in Brotherhood.
Yeah, we already know he's in Brotherhood.
Yeah.
He was
super.
He was one of the first spoilers.
Cool. I'm happy about that. Great. Maybe he'll
You're
make a
happy
list.
you don't have to play Mystique anymore.
Shit. Yeah, I'm not excited. I've never been too much of a fan of him or his stick. I really don't care.
I'm really excited because I want him in Avengers. I love super speed characters. I love the idea that there's another thing about super speed characters doing this, and this is an objective-based game, which makes it even better, but there's something that super speed characters do to your opponent that I love, which is okay, like when you set up a game, your opponent feels like their side of the board is sacred space. Like they have a lot of control about what's going to go on tactically on their side of the board. It's not till much later in the game that they have to worry about your presence on their side of the board. I love the idea that on turn 1, I have to go around the table to my opponent's side and go, excuse me, I'm going to play my character over here. Like, I really, really like that because it does something to the dynamic of the game in a larger strategic style. Making your opponent turn around to deal with anything, especially if you're playing an objective game where everything's happening in the middle, is a big, big deal. I really
I'm
like
actually pretty excited because I think he's actually really good at hunting a lot of those 2-point models you see. Like
Right.
he's good at fighting Rocket because he closes the distance. He's good at fighting Black Widow because he's got all range 3 attacks, so he can punch from outside martial arts range. He's good at fighting people like Wong, who like can't actually survive people attacking them,
Mhm.
and he's gonna be able to get there really quickly.
Yep. That kind of backline diver is something that doesn't exist very much in the game yet. I think it's one of the reasons why I like Black Panther, because Black Panther does that. He does it fairly well, like a backline diver. So I'm excited to see another character like this. I'm pumped for him to be in Avengers. I don't know why other characters are, but I think he belongs in Avengers, and I'm glad. So we know, Mr. Sinister's card. We
Yep,
know
got spoiled.
Mr. Yep, we have it. He's got a bunch of stuff and junk, but let's see if I can get.
I don't know if you guys are gonna share this opinion, but I'm actually a little disappointed.
Really disappointed?
Yeah. I thought he was going to have more stuff. He has a lot of rules on his card, but they're all basically like sub-rules of the same thing, right? Like everything on his card is DNA stuff. I thought that was just be like a DNA rule with like bullet points of things he can do with DNA samples. And then seeing it just like 4 or 5 things listed out that all just say DNA this, DNA that, molecular this, and they all just like spend DNA token, do X, spend DNA token, do X. I'm like, oh, like I just thought it was gonna be more creative. I don't know.
I think there's probably a tactics card coming out that'll set him off. That's all I can imagine.
I'm sure there is. I think when I was watching the battle report, they used the term DNA or cloning vat like 38 times and never explained what it does. And so I'm quite certain there's going to be... They do mention, man, wouldn't it be great if you could use that other Sinister card to bring someone back? And so pretty sure cloning vat's going to resurrect a KO'd character. Which will be tilting.
Yeah.
But that being said, obviously he's a 4-point character, so he can only be so good. But I was just excited that he's gonna be more creative. But it seems like basically all he's gonna do is run up, blast people, and then be annoying.
Yeah, he does have a control effect in him, which is pretty cool. Move somebody short within 3 is cool.
Also, go ahead.
Oh, I was just... The problem now is they've set a new precedent for what a 4-point character can do. And I mean, I'm not just saying one character, there's a couple now. I mean, but to me, Enchantress is the top of the bar. Like, she's a 4.5. She does the stupidest thing ever. And then even, what's her name? Medusa is also a 4 and does something that's pretty game-breaking, ball-busting, whatever. And then he's kind of like, he's just kind of weird. He's got a few things going on, but he really doesn't seem to have, I don't know, pretty bland.
He's like a control model. Like he just wants to go out there, be annoying, be slightly above average, and just like slow your opponent down. And I kind of like that, but it is different. So obviously his attacks are good, right? Because he has a generic strike attack that's range 3. He has his beam attack is amazing. Beam 4 Mystic that gives him tokens. Like that's great. Like if people were saying like if Hela had that attack, whole new game, right?
Right.
Like this is clearly like Hela 2.0. Like we've learned that Hela can't do what she does the way we made her. So they found a way to make it happen. Which, yeah, he feels a little bit like a weird combination of like Hela and Vision.
I was actually gonna say a weird combination of Hela and Loki. I feel like he's more like that. Like he's got that same kind of, I'm just going to stick around on this table and be super annoying, and I'm also going to be able to use tokens for effects in addition to my power, like Hela does. I feel like he's a little bit like Loki.
Yeah, I think this guy is going to be interesting. I think you're going to have to get him on the table before you can make any judgments, because it's really going to be all about how quickly can you replenish the tokens and spend them. Because Hela kind of just sits on 3, right? Like, she wants to have 3 so she can use them to stay alive. As where I think he's going to just like burn through them quickly, repeatedly. Especially if you can get like a good beam set up, and you're like, let's say you go into a turn with 3 tokens, and you can line up a beam of 3 people, you could burn through 9 tokens in 1 round, which would just be crazy. Because he's like, spend 3, gain 3, spend 3, gain 3. Like, it'd just be like crazy quickly you're going through tokens. So I'm pretty excited to actually see him played. And obviously his tactics cards are gonna, change that. We know that one of his tactics cards gets him more DNA tokens that we'll cover in a second.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, segues.
Is that what we're on next? Is the tactics card?
Sure.
So Forced Extraction is up to 3 allies within range 3 of Sinister take 1 damage, and Sinister gains that many genetic sample tokens. So it's just a simple way to just guarantee tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, theoretically, like we just said, if he had 2 power to start with, which isn't hard to see, he could have potentially 12 tokens in 1 round.
But how is he spending on just rooting people and clearing effects and healing? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, well, if you look at his attacks, I mean, yeah, I don't know what you would necessarily use them for, but you could use some to prevent damage because that's free. You need a lot of power to use the rooting.
Because for the attacks, you actually don't spend the genetic samples to do the attack.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
No, yeah, you have to spend 6 power. That you get the area for every genetic sample he has on him. So really, the only thing he can do is heal, clear effects, and give out roots. So I don't know if you actually need 6 a turn. I think if you probably be good by getting 2 or 3 every turn, right?
Does he actually heal himself?
Yeah. Well, actually, sorry. No, it doesn't heal.
It
prevents damage. Never mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has to be attacked for that. So I could see you using over the course of a round, 6 total.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so I don't actually know that people are going to play the take damage to give DNA tokens, the Forced Extraction. That doesn't seem that necessary with how many he's going to generate.
Unless maybe the other tactics card requires him to spend tokens also, if it's some sort of super cool thing.
That's possible.
But you'd have to, if it's a reactive card, if the Clone Vad's a reactive card, then they won't, because he'll have enough by that time.
Yeah, I would expect it's probably going to be a reactive card, because they wouldn't want you to just be able to play it at any time to bring someone back.
Right.
Anyway, that's speculation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Next
see.
bit.
We also know that Quicksilver's spending attack is Cyclonic Vortex from the stream. Is range 3, 6 dice, cost 2, and then after the attack is resolved, he gets to advance. Moving on, we have Scarlet Witch. Her spending attack is called Cruel Twist. It is range 3, 8 dice, cost 6, and then the defender does not add criticals or add dice for criticals rolled in the defense roll, and do not count them as successes in the roll either. Which, counting that she also succeeds on failures, is a big deal, because that means she's succeeding on 5 out of the 8 defense or dice results, and you're only succeeding on defense on 2, which is ridiculous. Or 3, sorry. No, it is 2. Yeah, wilds
it's
and
2.
blocks is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's succeeding on 1/8. She's succeeding on 5/8. And then also, if she rolls a skull in the roll, she changes one of your defense rolls to a blank, which is extra insulting. So that one is going to be a super deadly attack.
She's kind of an offensive monster. Like she's kind of a new breed.
Yeah. She reminds me a lot of Magneto. Like when we first saw Magneto, I was like, man, this guy not only does a ton of damage, but does a lot of other stuff too.
I wish she could move and throw. I wish she could move and throw people, but she can't.
She can't throw people.
She can't throw things or people, or she can't move. She cannot move people at all.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah,
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily have board control.
Correct.
Or at least none that we've seen. She might be able to do it, and we just haven't seen her do it.
Mm-hmm.
No criticism, but the battle report they played was more for fun than for strategy. They were doing takebacks and like making jokes about how they were playing him the whole time, which was fun. I mean, the whole time, who was it? Was it Schick? Schick was trying to pull off this last thing we're going to talk about right now, the difficult to please team tactics card that is for Wanda and Pietro. If Scarlet Witch dazes or KOs an enemy character and Quicksilver has interacted with or is holding an objective token, Magneto may play this card. Remove an activated token from Magneto.
Man, is that not a ball buster or what, man? That
I
thing is
really need my Magneto to
crazy.
activate 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Four times with all you've got. Because you can Cosmic Invigorate, and now you can Difficult to Please, and then you could also all you've got. And Magneto could go 4 times. I need this to happen.
Yeah, but how hard is that to do, though? I mean, there's only so many missions that you can flip, right?
Very.
Yeah,
Very hard.
It's very hard to do this.
Conveniently, the Magneto mission you can interact. Well, you just need him to be holding a token. And being that he's the fastest character in the game, that won't be impossible. But they're going to be gunning for him if he has a token. But like Parker was saying, if you can get like 3 power on him, he can supersonic forward, pick it up, and double move away. And like all of a sudden, he's just gone. Like you won't ever see him again. And then also, we didn't talk about this. I think it was supposed to be in the panel to play. He has a defense ability like Loki, where if he's targeted by something, he can move away.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think we talked about that last time. But yes,
I think we talked about that last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to kill him, or he can just sneak away. Yeah.
But yeah, the difficult to please card seems like a good balance because it's going to be requires 3 characters and requires very specific situations. And so, I don't know. I don't even know if it's probably going to get played, but it seems cool. It's very flavorful.
I love the idea of more tactics cards like that coming out that have like these little side missions. You're like, okay, if I achieve these 2-3 things, I'll get something special.
And that's actually that I like because they're called team tactics cards, right? Mm-hmm. Like a tactic you're playing with. Magneto fucks with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch all the time. So because he knows if they have low self-esteem, they'll work harder to please him, right? And so I love that idea that it's actually a tactic he's coming into every, engagement with. He's purposely withholding love from Quicksilver so that he does more. I think that's great. I really like the flavor of this and the fact that it actually feels like you said, kind of like a mini quest, a side quest. I like those. I hope in my perfect version of this game, that's the way all team tactics cards would look. It wouldn't just be like, come back to life. Like, what's the cost? Power. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when the game first came out, and we were like, "Hey, this tactics card doesn't require 2 people to play it." It was like a big deal. It was like, man, this card's gonna be broken. What does it do? I don't know, but it doesn't require 2 people. Like Battle Lust. When Battle Lust came out, that was a big deal because it was a way to increase damage that didn't require outside help. It was just I play this card, and nowadays, like every card you play is like a one shot.
Yeah, and how is by the very definition of the word, how is that a team tactics card when one person just puts on rocket boots? How did you have to put on rocket boots? How'd you get it? Did Rocket Raccoon make them? Did Iron Man make them? No, I just, I spent power and rocket boots appeared on me. You're like, oh.
You see, I've been standing here for 12 seconds, so I said rocket boots, and now I have rocket boots.
Yeah.
And in 6 more seconds, something bad will happen.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why, I like all those. There's like, you have to have Corvus Glaive and Proxima. You got to have Gamora and, Gamora
it should be like a
Nebula.
Guardians card, right?
Yeah.
Like it should be a Guardians card. That way you're like, oh, well, because I'm a member of the Guardians, rocket boots.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or Rocket Pack, right? Call it Rocket Pack because they always have that. You're like, that makes perfect sense. There's lots of things that I wish it's weird in this game with Team Tactics cards for me because some of them are so beautifully flavored and like exactly what you want. And
like sibling rivalry.
Yeah, like sibling rivalry. It's such a great card, and it's fun to play. Yeah. And then there's cards like, all you got. Yeah, Hefo. Actually, Hefo's not the worst thing.
It's actually a Team Tactics card.
Yeah, it's actually a Team Tactics card.
Brace for Impact, where it's like any number of characters can play this card. Like, well, okay.
What does your character do? Well, he just, braces, and you're like, what does that fucking mean? Like, why doesn't the dice accomplish that? That's the point of making the defense roll, is that your character does or does not brace for impact. Like, I think I get that they're trying to do game softeners and they want it to be less punishing at certain moments and for you to have control of when it's less punishing, but I wish every Team Tactics card was a like Jeremy said. I love the idea of a side quest. A side quest.
Like Heave Ho. It is actually very hard to pull off, even though it does nothing.
I wish they were all like Agents of Smash. Like Agent of Smash is silly and dumb, and it requires like 12 points of character. But if you really wanted to play Agents of Smash, if you wanted that little side quest, then you play Hulk and She-Hulk.
You should play Anger Management when you play Avengers, because it's a Team Tactics like mission in itself. And it's a mission to figure out why you would ever play it, because it doesn't do anything.
But here's I'm not saying they're all winners that have a character requirement that they're all winners. I'm just saying
right. No, I'm with you. I totally agree. It's just like there's some cards that feel like side quests and then don't do anything. And there's cards that feels like side quests, but you're like, oh, this was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to bring us into the next topic that I wanted to bring up with you guys, and we might do more ratings after this. We might not. It depends on how long you guys want to talk about this for. I want your guys' honest opinion. Are you happy with the way Team Tactics cards are functioning in the game right now? And I mean that as a concept of with the restricteds, with the 8 in a roster, with the 5 in a game, with the cards currently available. Do you think we are good on the cards that are currently available? Do you think we need broader horizons on the options? Do you think we need more cards available to a roster? Do you think we need more cards available to a squad? Do you think we need more or less restricted or banned cards? What are your guys' thoughts? I guess we can, since we talked about it already, let's talk about the banned and restricted lists. Are you guys happy with the amount on the banned and restricted list currently? Do you think we need more or less?
There's one thing about the banned and restricted list that I really like is that they haven't put a card on the banned and restricted list that has a character specification. I actually like that because you're already by writing in the card that you have to have a certain character, you're already putting like a kind of a tax on it, right? You're saying I'm going to play a character, or maybe sometimes a whole faction or a set of characters in order to make this really dominant card happen. So I really like that there are some super dominant cards out there that feel so good for certain characters or certain factions, but they haven't put any of those on there because you have to play that faction. the first time I'll be really mad about the banned or restricted list is when they put, all webbed up, on it, or, a force a symbol on it, or something like that. When they put one, or even Avengers a symbol, one of these cards that's super duper good, but maybe it has this terrible interaction with a crisis card they haven't printed yet, and then we're like, crap, now we have to take out Rainbow Bridge. It just has to go away. It just has to be banned.
That's interesting.
And I think
I'll give you the one
happens.
that's getting ready to happen. The next one that happens is going to be Wakanda Forever, and it's going to do exactly the things that you hate.
One power for an attack is pretty efficient
for your entire army on the last turn of the game. Suddenly, you have no objectives. You're pushed off of everything for no reason at all.
Well, it's the last turn of the game because you played Wakanda Forever.
Yes. So
like it is made the last turn of the game because of how effective it is.
So that feels,
one, ugh.
Yeah. So
it is certainly one of the more powerful team cards, and it's probably the only one of the faction cards that I would say is within the realm of being on the list at least. So Parker, do you think the fact that there are no keyworded cards on the list a product of the way the game is designed? Do you think it's because they don't want to restrict or ban tagged cards? Or do you think it's just because untagged cards are inherently more powerful than tagged cards? Do you think it's basically coincidence that the most powerful cards in the game are unkeyworded because that's why they're powerful?
I would actually say that I think there's a little bit of chicken and egg there, because it's true that the cards that you see pop up the most in tournaments and you see abused the most are automatically going to be the ones that can be played by anybody, right? Because you're automatically skewing the numbers there. So if you're taking data from the game and you're listening to players are going to say, well, Hired Muscle is, such a negative play experience. I see it every game. And you won't see that for Wakanda Forever. A player won't say, I see it every game, because unless they're only playing people who play Wakanda, right? That's what it would have to be.
Yeah.
And so anytime if I'm a game designer and I hear Wakanda Forever is a horrible card. You know, somebody plays against me every single game, and it totally ruins my experience. I would say, well, that means you're only playing people who play Wakanda. That seems like a very skewed experience you're having. But when I hear feedback that Hired Muscle is a terrible card because they're seeing it in every single game and it's taking away their agency of play, then they go, oh, okay, well, I need to look at that one seriously. So I think being a universal card automatically makes you a much bigger target because you're automatically affecting a lot bigger player base more often. And I think there's the other side of that coin, which is similar and related, is that you built a tactics card to make a faction special. Like Wakanda Forever Wakanda only has one card. Black Panther and Shuri have a card, but Wakanda only has one card. So
there's Wakanda. There's more than one Wakanda specific card.
No, it's Wakanda.
No, it's Vibranium Shielding is also Wakanda specific.
Oh yeah, so let's say Wakanda and Shuri and Black Panther. That's right. So you're right. So yeah, there is two, but
wrecked.
Yeah, I'm wrecked. So basically, and I'm not sure. I guess it'd be an interesting thought exercise to find out if you ban Wakanda Forever, do people drop Wakanda like a bad habit? A lot of people tend to flee nerfed things in games.
Right. That's why you have to look at it over like a 6 or 12-month period to actually see the results, right? Because humans are naturally recency biased. And so if you tell someone, like, you wouldn't even have to actually change it. If you just told them, hey, rerolls aren't as good as you think they are, here's the math, and showed them fake numbers, they would immediately transition away from rerolls into other things. Because that's just the way the human mind works. And so if you give them the placebo effect of telling them, hey, we've nerfed something, like, they're going to move away from it even if you haven't actually done anything. Right. Like, video games use this concept all the time. Like, League of Legends will commonly, like, placebo nerf characters to get them to be less played. And it's like instantly overnight there's like a 15% drop in plays. And so, like, that happens. And I
think if you drop Wakanda Forever, I think you'd see you wouldn't see a mass exodus, but you'd definitely see a drop in Wakanda play, and maybe that's what they want for the game. But I don't like that. Like, as a person who likes the game, I don't like somebody going, this whole faction, we kind of fucked up this whole faction by printing this one card for this faction because of how it multiplies their power. So many bump effects and things. I just lose the game because of control effects. I lose it on control. I lose it for extracts because I get killed, and then I drop it, and then I also lose it on controlling a point because half their characters just bop me away with that extra attack. So it's so bad that they put the Wakanda Forever on that faction in this game and the win conditions for it, that it makes me mad that they have to go back and just ban it because. I say, like, what the fuck were you doing when you made this card? Were you just asleep? Were you just like, ooh, we put this in a faction with Shuri and Black Panther and Killmonger? Whoopsie! Like, is that what you do? That makes me mad. From like I want to have faith in the game designers that they build a card for a faction or for a set of characters, intending for it to stick around as a good reason to play those characters.
Parker, I really don't think that's a fair point of view to have. It's one thing to say, like, when this card was made, the game was in one spot and now it's in a very different spot. Like, people are going to take the game in different ways than you intended, and also they playtested Wakanda Forever way before any of these other things were released. Like, every time something comes out, it's going to change the meta. And so if you're getting like old data and new data, like crosses, where you're seeing a card that was printed previously is now much more powerful than we expected it to be, that can be from many different sources, including like just the way people play them. But we've been talking about every week, it seems, how people are bloodthirsty on scenario in this game. Like, everyone playing on TTS is doing these like absolutely as fast as possible scenario rushes. Well, if they didn't play that way with the new mission cards when Wakanda Forever was playtested, well, then Shuri and Black Panther seemed probably more balanced, because we were looking at the original core box scenarios. Like, that's a completely different game state than it is now. You didn't have Panic, you didn't have Demons, you didn't have, hell, Wakandan herbs probably even.
I will give it that. You're right. I was being unfair to game developers who have perfect foresight. Of course they don't. But I really don't like, what's the best way to put it? I don't like invalidating
It's
a
not-
portion of
No
the
one
game.
likes it when their cool toys are taken away. So yeah, if you have an opinion about something like a faction, and all of a sudden its identity is taken away, like what if Captain America was banned? Like, what do you think about Avengers? It's all different now.
Mhm.
Even if they get a new leader that does cool stuff, it like the way you have been internalizing this faction is completely different now. And so, like, it would take a while to get over that.
I guess this is what I would want. I'm cool with them banning Wakanda forever in Marvel Crisis Protocol 2.0. I'm totally fine with that. You want to reorganize the game and give factions different identities. I love that idea. I love re-identifying factions. That's one of the reasons why I love all the new leaders coming out for each faction, like getting a second leader in every faction slowly. I love that. Like, that's really cool. That's great because it changes things. If you want to give Wakanda a new leader and another tactics card, it gives people a reason to play a different thing. That's cool. But of course, that doesn't work because if Wakanda Forever is just as Wakandan, so you can't just give them a new leader. You would have to just ban the card and take away one of their selling points, or reset the game. And
as we've said before, also though, like, just because a card gets put on the ban list doesn't mean it's going to be banned forever. Like, they might just be printing a new updated version of Wakanda Forever. We don't know. Like, we're looking at the game with only partial knowledge because they know the game clearly like 6 months to a year ahead of where we do, if not even further than that. And so,
It's supposed
like,
to be 18 months. Yeah,
right.
That's what they're saying.
So, Jeremy, now that you've clearly triggered Parker, would you
I
like to
know.
follow up on what you
Fucking
said?
got him.
I'm fucking
He
mad.
doesn't even play Wakanda, and
Gotcha,
he's
bitch.
fucking losing it. God, don't tell him Odin's blessing is going to get restricted.
I
He'll
know.
fucking kill himself.
Uh,
He's like, more models I don't own are changing. He's like flailing
okay,
arms.
Just to pause for a second before we go to the next part. What you're
Yeah,
gonna say.
how dare you
Let me-
say hypotheticals like they're fact?
Yeah. But with all of that
His face
said,
is red.
Parker, would you not agree that that's the kind of thing that causes a game balance to not be balanced anymore? I mean, or do you think it's fine? Do you think Wakanda Forever is just fine? Like, that should stay forever?
I mean, it's in the name.
And your probation has been extended.
I guess I need to. Okay, I'll actually say this. I think there's a distinct difference between Wakanda Forever and Drop Off or Hired Muscle, because Wakanda Forever doesn't do a whole lot of anything on turn one, right? It's not something you see on turn one. It's usually a turn 2, 3, 4 card. And you can win the game before your opponent has the chance to play Wakanda Forever. And maybe I'm wrong. And
Wrong. You're wrong.
You would have to be massively ahead.
Okay, so
That's the problem, is the card does so much more than it says it does, because it
Right.
says, spend 4 or 5 power, get 4 or 5 extra attacks out of activation. But what it really means is do all of that and rearrange the board however you feel like.
Yeah.
Which is clearly not okay, because when you play it going last, you're just saying I win this round of scenario play automatically. And if you're playing a mission like Mayor Fisk, where you can score 4 points off of Secure very easily, then all of a sudden, like, how do criminals make up for that? It's like, well, the whole point of criminals is we stand on points. Oh, well, your guys are not on points anymore. It's like, oh, well, shit.
do you? I mean, your captain. What can you play around it? Right. So, is there a way to play around that scenario? Can you? I mean, knocking down Black Panther is hard, but knocking down Shuri isn't. Do you just prioritize?
At range 5 it is. And she has Okoye standing by her if you want.
I know. I know there's going to be play and counterplay. I get it, but the point is Wakanda Forever I made the statement that I don't think Wakanda Forever is a turn one play that requires no counters. Like, it's not a hired muscle or a drop off, because
it's not a gimmick. Yeah,
right.
It's not an early gimmick.
I guess the word is solitaire, right? Well, that's one of the problems with hired muscle. It's just solitaire. It doesn't require your opponent to do anything. Your opponent could put it down anything on the field opposite me, and it doesn't matter. I have this card called hired muscle. It doesn't matter what you have. You don't have to show up. I win. So Wakanda Forever is not that card.
I don't think it's that card, right? Because there's the time mechanic that you get that you don't get against hired muscle. And hired muscle is like 100%. Did you get to go first with hired muscle, or did you not?
Mm-hmm.
And so But what's the answer to Wakanda Forever? Just play the card that prevents your guys from being moved and attacked? Like, the problem is its power level is so far above the other cards. Like, name a card that has a comparable power level that you can generate 3 to 5 extra attacks, and those attacks can move people. Like, name the other tactics card that does that. We talked about Deadly Duo being strong, and all it does is give you 3 random attacks that can't even target the same person.
Right.
And it requires 2 people to play.
If Jason was on the podcast right now, one of the last games I played was against Jason, and I easily won the game on turn 3 because of Wakanda Forever. That's all it took. It just took that. All his models were moved off. It didn't matter. Like, tons of points got raked in. The swing was monstrous. It was dumb. It didn't feel good for me. It didn't feel good for him. And it just wasn't cool. I think the problem for you to be saying, like, you know, it's a thing and shouldn't be because whatever reasons, you haven't had it happen to you once, twice, 3 times. Because it's brutal. Now, they haven't banned it yet. Let's be clear on that. Okay, we're not giving out some sort of secret. What I'm just making a speculation that it's going to be one of the ones on the list next, because it's so goddamn strong. That's
if there was a faction only card that was on the chopping block, it would have to be Wakanda Forever, I would think. The only other one that would even come close for me is maybe Magnetic Refraction, just because in my experience that card is silly strong.
And it's not
fun. I
fun.
don't know that it's so strong that it swings the meta, though. It is not a fun card to play against. It's a very fun card to play with. Because you're like, I can just play 2 and not die. This is so cool.
And it does require, you have to have, priority to make it work right. So there's a couple things.
Right. Well, it's priority, faction, and character specific. Like, that's when that card is strong. Wakanda Forever is best when going last. Like, that's easy to pull off.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is it, the fact that Wakanda... I think if Wakanda Forever... I'm trying to think about it. If Wakanda Forever existed in a faction that just didn't have a lot of pushes, like you just couldn't push people around.
No, if you just take Wakanda Forever and change the name and the faction to criminals, would anyone even care? I don't think that's the problem. It would be a good card, but it wouldn't be like, oh my god, Wakanda Forever is one of the better faction cards. It's because Wakanda without Wakanda Forever is a good faction. Like, Wakanda just period on their own as the models is strong. And then you're applying a card that's just like over the top on top of it. Like, All Webbed Up is like, might be to that point when you add in the new Amazing Spider-Man, but probably not. It's still good though. But it's not all encompassing like Wakanda Forever. It's so easy to play. It basically costs nothing. It gives you everything you want to do and more. Like, it's so perfect. Because it's so versatile. You can use it at the end of the turn to secure the scenario. You can use it in the early parts of the turn to swing tempo. You can use it to finish off a character you barely left alive. Like, and you can use like during Killmonger's activation. Well, if Killmonger usurps the throne and plays Wakanda Forever, now he's getting extra attack where he's getting his bonus dice, and he's still getting the bonus dice from Usurp the Throne. Like, all of a sudden, you're tripling his damage output with 2 tactics cards that cost a grand total of 4 power.
Are we still on subject that you wanted to, Brandon?
This is fine.
Okay. We tend to go.
This is not the question I asked Parker 20 minutes ago, but I'm finding that discussion that's happening.
Yes, it is.
No, stop. Are you happy with the amount of cards that are banned and restricted? That we got onto it's fine. I'm not mad or anything. It's just funny.
I would say I will not. My answer was that question is I will not be mad. I think until they put an affiliation card on there, and then the reason why I'll be mad is not because it's bad or good for the game, and that's what ban restriction list. I'll be able to sleep at night because I'll go Wakanda Forever is bad for the game, so it should be out.
Gun to everyone's head. If right now the announcement came out, Wakanda Forever is banned. Gun to your head, is this good or bad for the game? You can only say one word, go.
It's good. It's good for the game.
Okay. That was 3 words. Can't even cut them off. All right. So I actually, when you initially said I like that there's no like faction or character specific cards on the list, I had never even considered that to be a way of looking at the list or notice that was true. Like, when you said that, I had to stop and think about it. I was like, wow, there isn't, is there? And so I pulled up the TTS4 results for popularity of cards, And cards that are on here before you see a a specific card for a character or a faction. We have Medpack, Brace, Field Dressing, Hired Muscle, Advanced R&D, Disarm, All You've Got. All happened before, which conveniently a lot of these cards are restricted or banned. And then we've got Deception is the first one. And Brotherhood was a really popular faction in this league. I don't think that was going to hold true. And also, Mystique came out just before the league started, so I think people wanted to play her. The next closest we had is Odin's Blessing, because Angela and Enchantress had just come out. And then after that, we have Exceptional Healing and Rainbow Bridge, Asteroid M, Wakanda Forever, all webbed up, Special Delivery. And so it's kind of interesting that just basically we have this giant batch of restricted cards and unaffiliated cards, and then a giant batch of character and affiliation restricted cards right after that. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was interesting information.
I think it is true that this game kind of has a here the ultra, if you want to talk about kind of like a TCG, here the universal also rares, like the neutral cards that can be played by any factions. Yeah, that everybody wants 2 of in their deck. You gotta have them in your deck, and then you have your faction specific cards that are super duper strong, and then you have this kind of like pack filler. It's everything else. I think this game definitely follows that. There's 2 groups that are way above the curve, and you can rate them similarly in power, but the ones you see happen much more often, of course, are the universal ones, because anybody can take them.
Right, because you don't have to worry about... But the fact that, like, Odin's Blessing was more popular than, like, Patch Up, I actually find kind of surprising. Now, again, in this league, it was very Brotherhood and Asgard heavy, so it's not a fair representation of the meta, but I just thought that was interesting. So I'm going to, again, ask for the same answer that I asked for earlier. So try and stay on point here. Are you happy with the number of restricted and banned cards we currently have? And that's of today, knowing the new banned and restricted cards. Do you think we need more or less? Or are you happy? You think it's right where it needs to be for today?
You want me to answer that? I can answer that.
Well, I wanted Parker to answer it, but he's staring blankly into his computer, so I assume he's disconnected again. So Jeremy, go.
No, I actually wanted
to, I know you're thinking. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Chill, bro. Chill. We're not gonna ban Wakanda Forever tonight. Chill out. All right, Jeremy, go.
I actually love it. I think that the more cards that they put on that list, I'm happy with all of them. I don't care. I think the harder the choices are to make the selections and what we put in our tactics cards, that's great. I'm fine with it. Most of the models that we put on the table are just fine. The tactics cards are kind of the icing. They're fun and exciting and all of that. And the really good ones, okay, if you want to take it, great. The banned ones are generally pretty shitty for your opponent, or they cause something to happen that's like backbreaking. Take them out of the game. I mean, that's fine by me too.
So, again, do you think there is too few, too many, or just the right amount?
Too many. I would say too few.
There's too few. Okay, I thought that's kind of where you were going with that. Parker, do you have an answer for me?
I think it's actually too few also.
I think that's probably a fair point. I don't think there's hard enough choices when choosing right now, which is why I think that there needs to be... I think a hard look taken at the entire, like, the way tactics cards are used in the game currently.
I would go even back to something I have said a while back, and I usually say it. I think healing cards shouldn't be in the game. I understand that there's buffers, but if you're going to have a healing card, I think they should be cards more like Brace for Impact type of healing, where something dumb happens and you can stop it from happening right then. And just be done with it. Not during your turn, heal a character up, and all that shit. It should be a reduction of damage at the time. That way then you can retort with trying to give it more damage, trying to do something. Maybe that's... I
would be much happier with the game if there was more cards, or any cards really, that affected the attack while it's happening, like Recalibration Matrix. It's pretty much the only one I can think of right now that actually... There's Recalibration Matrix, the Books of Truth. I can't think of any others that affect the attack roll while it's happening. Because, like, Odin's Blessing, Exceptional Healing, reduce damage to 1 after the results. But yeah, I would like to see it's like, re-roll 3 attack dice that in an opponent's roll, like, in the modification step. Like, what if that was a card? Like, 1 power, play on the defending character, you can re-roll 3 dice in the attack roll. like stuff like that. Like I
Mhm.
would much rather see stuff like that instead of like healing cards. But I think that's kind of where we're at right now, is we're just going to see healing cards. And to be fair, it's much easier to balance a healing card than it is to balance like things that happen at instant speed in the middle of the turn. Like that's opening up a whole can of worms, and it might actually slow the game down a bit.
And I mean, again, any card that lets you go twice, in
Mhm.
any version of that, Cabal has theirs. All You Got, whatever. Any version that allows you to go more times than your regular 2 activations should be looked at very, very closely. I don't know that that's any good either.
To put in your list, you mean? Yeah, looked at very closely to include in your
Well,
list.
yeah, or to just be taken out because they're just too goddamn good, you know?
Mhm. I don't know. So, do you guys agree with how many cards that we get to take in our squad and our roster? Do you think the 8 and 5 quantities are a fair amount?
Parker, what do you think?
I think it's. I don't like how incredibly disproportionate it is to the amount of cards in the game. That's what I don't like.
So yeah, I'm looking at the number of cards right now. There's 115 cards in the database, which I think that means there's about 110 currently released. I think there's some that we've seen that aren't out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the restricted list. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total cards that are banned or restricted. So that means there's roughly 100 cards, a little more than 100 cards available, and you get to choose 8.
So it's less than 10% and climbing.
Rapidly climbing.
Yeah, rapidly climbing.
We're seeing about 6 more a month on average, I think.
That's interesting. I guess when you think of it, at this point right now, I think it's probably the correct ratio. I think getting to take a little bit less than 10% of the possibilities are there. But the thing I don't like about it is they printed so many fantastic cards that you always take, and then there's always there's two cards that come with the characters that you took. Sometimes 4 or 5 cards you took if you're trying to multi-faction your list, and then all of a sudden you feel like you can't take advantage of the reason why you played the factions, and that's when I think it starts feeling like why can I only take 8 cards total when I put 2 factions in my list and I worked hard to make this cool variable tactically flexible thing, but I actually can't support that with my tactics cards. Or I can support it, but it means I don't take the broken cards you printed that are broken. So,
and even if you only say that the restricted cards are the broken ones, like so, even if you put aside like 3 or 4 slots for your faction and characters, and then you put away 2 slots for the restricted cards, you're still looking at 2 cards left to take other good cards in the game. So if you're not a restricted card or you're not tagged to either a character or an affiliation, you're looking at 2 generics in your entire list, which is why we see every list have the same generics, because there's just not enough options. Like, why would you look at Recalibration Matrix when you have to take Hired Muscle? And admittedly, it just got banned, but like, there's been a solid 6 months of play with it in the meta. And then if you're not taking, Hired Muscle, you're probably taking Climbing Gear or, Inspiring Monologue or Disarm or any of these other really good generic cards, or like all you've got until very recently. I feel like with the restricted list, there is equally trying to remove negative play experience. They're trying to break up the monotony as well. Because if every affiliation has the same 4 cards in it, or every roster has the same 4 cards in it, that gets really boring. When everyone's playing, like All You've Got and Climbing Gear and Hired Muscle and all this stuff. So they're trying to take out the auto-include powerful cards and making them more specific choices that you have to make. Because like field dressing over All You've Got is a pretty hard choice, I think. I want to see. I think the 5 cards in a squad is fair. I think that's a decent choice that you're being forced into in the game. I think the 8 is the problem. Because if you think about a squad, you're looking at usually less than half of your roster, right? Like usually it's about 4 to 5 out of 10. So it's less than half your roster is making it into your squad, but you're making 60% of your tactics cards are making it into your squad. So I just feel like we need to raise the amount in your roster selection of tactics cards. I think we should go up to either 10 or maybe even 12, honestly. Like, it just makes it so hard to multi-faction because we have so many characters that are in dual factions now. like when the game first came out, there was one character in 2 factions, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's characters in 3 or 4 different factions now, and not to mention rogue agents that make it very easy to play 3 or even 4 factions. But if you are playing and every affiliation you're playing with has 2 tactics cards and you're trying to play dual faction, like you just said, half your cards are already gone and you haven't even decided what affiliation you're playing.
So the one thing that I got out of when we played a Battle Realm game that I thought was really interesting, I didn't really think I was going to feel the way I did, was at the end when you pick your tactics cards and you just pick them and put them in your list.
Just take whatever you want.
You know, I got to say that felt just fine. That wasn't a big deal.
It didn't feel broken at all, right?
It really didn't. We
were like, oh my god, you can take whatever you want, and then we went to play and we're like, I swap out this one card with my.
Yeah, I mostly take what I want anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's like, turns out when you're already playing only the best stuff, it just makes the fun cards go away. Is all it does. It's like you're not taking Marked for Death, you're not taking Recal, you're taking the same old like hired muscle bullcrap that you have to put in every list. Like you don't get to play like Sibling Rivalry, because you're too busy taking Rainbow Bridge in case your opponent is running away with the objectives on you.
And I mean, I will say I understand, like, it does limit you, and it gives a benefit for just running, 1 faction instead of 2. And it definitely, what's funny is when you take, like, those elite lists that have, like, Thanos, 9-point Thanos, you're like, okay, let me get all the Thanos cards that I want to beat ass with, and it feels really good, because all of your cards are awesome, and they're just for him, or whatever you're trying to do. And it feels fine. But when you get more than 2 or 3 characters, you're like, oh, crap. I can't, like, it really limits you.
Do you guys ever have this problem where sometimes you're like, you know what, who would go really good in here? Venom. I don't have a spot for Legal Protector. I guess I'll look somewhere else. I do that. That happens to me sometimes. I can't bring the tactics card with the character, so I will drop the character for another character, because sometimes the tactics card is actually like the tiebreaker for me when I'm vacillating in something. And so so the character will actually lose inclusion in my group because of the number of tactics cards I can bring.
I don't think that happens to me very often, but I think it's more of a process thing, because I almost exclusively build my characters roster before I build my tactics card roster. And so I've already made the choice if I'm bringing Venom or not before I even look at tactics cards. And so I'm just making the hard decision later to cut something, as opposed to if I should include Venom or not, because like we've passed that step. like he's in the roster, we're moving on, and that's why I never run into that. But that's just a development thing. What I will do sometimes, if I don't know what I want, I'll build like out to 8 characters, and then I'll go on to tactics cards to see if there's anything I can squeeze in.
Oh, speaking of that, that's actually, when I'm talking about list building, that's one of the reasons why I love playing the Avengers. It's one of the reasons why I've stuck with them a lot recently, is they only have one tactics card.
Yep, one card.
Like, that
what are you
actually...
talking about? Anger Management. One of the best tactics cards.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the reasons why when I get ready to play Guardians, actually I love the Guardians of the Galaxy as a concept. I love their models in the game, like what they do in the game. But the fact that they have so many tactics cards you feel like you want to play between their characters and their actual faction, I really struggle with building the list, because I'm like, I don't want to play a faction and want to take 5 tactics cards because I'll lose the tactics cards game. I've said this before, I feel like the tactics cards is kind of like a mini game inside the game, and the way you play them and the cadence of them, some of them are so influential and so powerful. Hired Muscle was a good example. That's why I was banned. Of if you play them at the right time, you can just win, right? You just win. Yeah. And so since that's like a mini game, playing a faction, choosing a faction that already tilts you to a loss to the minigame, or rather, in order to play the tactics cards that come with the factions that do well because they're a good card, but you don't want to do it. You dare not do it, because then you can't play, all you've got, because you've already brought 5 tactics cards out of your 8. I'm with you, Brandon. I like that there's 5 cards brought to the game, but I think the fact that there's 8 tactics cards, for me, a person who likes to play the team tactics cards, because I love them as a mini quest. I also like when they're really strong in the game. It will take me away from factions. I will not play factions because I want to bring the tactics cards, and I can't.
Yeah, and I want to believe that the developers, like pre-launch, had a lot of foresight into seeing like how many cards like were going to be in the game, but it just feels like you could throw away 50% of the cards you own and probably not even notice. Like, legitimately never notice that they were thrown away. And that just makes me feel like, well, then what's the point? Like, why are you making them? Like, there can't be 50% of the cards are bad, right? But they're literally like you could probably throw all but 30 cards away and probably still play competitively.
Yeah, but those guys making the game, like, they've openly said it many times, they are actively chasing two groups of people. And I mean, we're on the competitive side, and they're also chasing the new gamer who really loves Marvel and wants to use Thor and beat the shit out of Hulk. Like, and if that's your goal, you can do it in this game, no problem. Probably both are going to beat each other up. Who knows who will actually win because of dice and because of the mechanics that slow it down, because Thor goes halfway and just gets, dazed before KO'd. So it's got these balancing factors that allow you to not play great, but also just not auto die. And some of those cards are for that,
I get that not every card is designed for competitive play necessarily. I just feel like the number of functionally viable cards is way lower than I was expecting it to be. And I don't think there's ever going to be true interesting thought on Tactics cards at the percentage we're getting to play with. It's always going to be, and because going forward, we're just going to see more and more diamonds found, right? Like, when you're panning for gold in new releases, you're going to find one every once in a while. And so we're going to be adding more S tier level cards, more super premium cards going down the line. So unless we're just going to keep restricting and banning every single one of them, we're never going to get back to playing the cards that are like you said, for that second group of people, the people that just want to play fun, interesting cards. Like Sibling Rivalry is right there on the line because it's so functional in the game. But you're never going to play Thunderwave outside of a narrative game. And maybe we want to play that's a cool card. It just isn't good. I want to see more interesting, cool combos come up. And I just, at the rate we're going, it's just going to become the top 20 list, and you're never going to take anything off the top 20 list. Unless the top 20, all of it gets added to the restricted list.
So,
in which case, they're just saying, we know these cards are better than the other cards, and that's just boring as well.
So if you wrapped all of that up, what you just said, into one of the releases they're getting ready to do and they have elsewhere, I feel like Deadpool's exactly that. He doesn't do anything special, and he's got a bunch of funny, silly shit, but he'll never make top 20 to me. It's just kind of eh.
You're saying his cards won't?
No, I'm just saying him and his cards. He's just so meh. In the realm of 3-point characters, I feel like he's not a top 20 of the 180 we have.
I just feel like you might be underestimating the value of a 3-point combat model at the efficiency he is. And I'm not saying he's amazing, but I do think he has value. I don't think necessarily his Tactics cards do, because they are super off the wall batshit insane. And some of them are obviously just for comedic value, which is fine. But cards like that are fine.
But is it though? Because one of the things...
No, I think making fun cards is fine. But you need to balance it. The problem is when you have the fun card group, you have the competitive card group, and then there's 50% of the pool in the middle that's neither. They're just bad.
That's actually one of that's one of the things I want to say is there are flavorful cards that feel flavorful, like a mini side quest cards we talked about earlier in the cast. The mini side quest cards feel great because they give you a reward that's worth it on the table. But there is this huge set. I think that 50% you're talking about, this 50% you can lose, a part of that 50% are quote unquote, flavorful cards that just suck. Even if you pull them off, the flavor is bad. It's a bad flavor. You're like, wow, look at this pickled flavored ice cream. You're like, yeah, but that's not fun to eat. It's not fun. It technically is a flavor. I like pickles and I like ice cream, so I guess we could put them together. But when I actually put it in my mouth, this doesn't make a lot of sense. The consistency and the flavor doesn't really work. And so that's what I feel. There are some cards in this game that even if you did them, you didn't feel great doing them. It didn't do anything to the game state. You're talking about how Hulk, there are characters that just want Hulk and Thor to beat up each other. Well, you do want we want somebody to win. When there's a Tactics card that does nothing, that's not fun for those players either. or what's worse, a tactics card that never happens because the requirements are so difficult. They're so Machiavellian that you can never get it to occur. Maybe it's just maybe every game's going to have those outliers of just bad cards that are bad.
There's gonna be misses, like, and I'm willing to accept that. I'm probably being a little too harsh. I'm scrolling through the cards here. Ooh, I guess there was some spoilers recently. Did they spoil the? Huh. There are some new cards in the database today.
Oh my.
Kick 'em while they're down is an unaffiliated. This is a little off topic. Kick 'em while they're down and Kunlun Training is also a new card.
How do we?
We'll read them in a minute. Let's finish what we were talking about though. So I'm probably being too harsh on the amount of cards that like aren't quote playable. Because I'm not counting the amount of cards that are like faction related, which is why I don't consider them playable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to see like tactics selection be actually interesting. I don't want it to be, well, here's your 7 auto includes and pick one of the remaining 5 good ones. Like, it feels like that every time I build a roster. And maybe it's just that I'm too short-sighted to look past the good cards, but it just feels like why would I make an intentionally bad decision on like making my list good? And I've played silly lists sometimes. Like I've tried to do the Punisher does all you've got with Doom's Prophecy combo, and it was fun. But all they've done is just taken that away now. So now we're back to every list is the 4 character / affiliation cards plus 2 restricteds plus 2 good ones. Like that's every roster for me, and it's just boring. I want there to be more choices to be made. I want there to be more options. Like I don't even look at so many cards nowadays. It's like, well, there's the 8 I'm taking. It's like basically one card was a choice.
Yeah, I mean, the Texas cards kind of line up with the Crisis too, in the fact that you should be able to, and maybe I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. Maybe it is way more complicated, but if you could just take the 5 that you wanted, that seems fine to me. It also seems fine to me to just randomly do the damn crises and quit lining lists up specifically for shit that you may or may not get correctly. Why not play at random? I mean, make the best list you can.
I hate random scenario. I actually like that it's choosable.
Really?
Because you can't all in on one because you're only going to get it like 30 or 40% of the time.
Yeah.
What I was thinking, I've been kind of like boiling this around in my brain for a while. This would be a massive overhaul to tactics cards, but like, what if they basically increase the numbers noticeably? Like, what if you could play, let's say, 7 or 8 cards in your squad, and your list selection was like, I want to say like 12. 12 seems okay. So what if it was like, let's say 7 and 12, but restricted cards took 2 slots in your squad and your roster building. And so if you want to include 3 restricted cards in your roster, those take up 6 of your 12 slots. So now you have 6 remaining slots. But you can, and then when you go to play them in the game, they also take up 2 slots. So you could play Brace, Medpack, Field Dressing, but that's 6 of your 7 in-game cards. And
so like a Netrunner system, basically.
Similar to the Netrunner system, yeah.
Yeah.
But that way, if you didn't want to play restricted cards, then you could take like 7 cards in your squad and take 12 cards in your roster if you didn't want to burn through a bunch of restricted cards. So if you didn't want to play Field Dressing and All You've Got and Medpack, you could be like, okay, well, I'll just take 12 cards and play 7 of them. And you're like, well, now all these like not as powerful cards like Marked for Death, Inspiring Monologue, Recalibration Matrix, all those cards become a lot more effective in the game because they're not as costly to field.
Obviously, that system works because it worked really well with Netrunner.
Well, Netrunner was different because Netrunner was just a flat point buy system. But
yeah,
it's similar concepts.
So, yeah, they're more expensive or not expensive. Take a bunch. I think it would work great, but then they're gonna have to like edit things that were more awesome than they thought instead of just ban and restrict. Like it becomes
right. Well, the best part though is because the ban and restricted list is fluid. If they see outliers, they can just throw them on the restricted list, and it fixes that problem.
That's true.
And the main reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I feel like tactics cards are such a big part of success in the game, and I don't know that a lot of people see it that way. And it's not just the cards you play with; it's about getting them to work. because most of the time when I'm up at the shop and I see a blowout game, you can almost instantly look at don't even look at the scoreboard or the models left alive. Look at the tactics cards. If one guy's used all 5 and the other guy has used 0, that's probably the guy that's winning. Is the guy who's used all 5 because he's used his tactics cards to catapult himself into a lead, and his opponent hasn't been able to respond yet. And that's usually when you get the insurmountable leads. Is when you see that. Now, not always. Sometimes you just have like massive either player skill or model advantage or luck sometimes. When like accidentally Black Widow kills 2 people, you're going to have a big lead. But yeah, so when I see people struggling like, man, I didn't do anything in this game. You look down and they have all 5 tactics cards and piles of power on their models. It's like you probably weren't prioritizing using your abilities in the right way.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Alrighty. Cool. Well, it was a fun episode. Parker only left us once. It was pretty good.
He was on probation.
Mm-hmm. Alright, well, thanks for joining us. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Restricted Jeremy.
And this has been The Gang Learns the Meaning of Forever.
Fuck.
It's what forever means, Jeremy.
Oh, forever. Okay. You got it.
How is he so bad at following basic instructions?
Are you ready?
I
Yes.
mean, I know you
Wait,
spend a
no.
lot of time at public school. Are you ready? Yes, turn sideways. Parker, we're just going to press the record button. I don't know what to do.
I didn't say that at all.
You just said it with your face and your body language. All right, on 5. I do want to say our claps for last week were like on point.
Nice.
The closest sync ups we've had.
It wasn't like 8 seconds apart, and you realize it was the different episodes.
Well, normally we'll line up the 3, right? But like they're not even, and so I have to like take an average. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of like, well, this one's going to be a quarter second early, but this one is also going to be a quarter second late. And the middle one's going to be roughly close. And then, but it was actually like, okay, well, they're actually like at the correct cadence. So once I lined them up, it was pretty even.
Congratulations, we did it.
I didn't even use the wrong episodes this week.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well
I
done.
didn't get your guys' recordings from 2 weeks ago.
Well done. Nice.
And put them into the episode.
Just to see what happens, just as an artistic choice.
Yeah.
I decided to put several episodes together and mash them together at once. Just
Mm-hmm.
experience.
So there was a radio station locally that back in the day they had a disc jockey that would play at like 2 a.m. and he would do some weird shit. And he got to this thing where he had like a game show where you could call in and guess the names of the songs he was playing, and you would get like concert tickets or some bullshit, some stupid prize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he played them at the same time. So it would be 2 songs playing at the exact same time over the top of each other. And if you could call in and guess both songs, you won the prize.
Mm-hmm.
And then one week, this guy calls in and he's like, "Hey, you're playing 2 songs at once." And he goes, "No, I'm playing 3 songs at once." And the guy just stayed on the line for like 30 seconds, dumbfounded with no words. He's like, I called into the radio station, let them know they were accidentally playing 2 songs at the same time. And the disc jockey on air responds, "No, I'm playing 3 songs at the same time." He's like, I don't know how to respond to this guy. It's like, I tried to help him, but he's just not accepting my help. And eventually he hangs up the phone and he's just like, "Thanks, next caller." Like, what the hell? It was quite good. And so that's what it's like when I upload the wrong data into our podcast.
Gotcha.
The moral of the story is.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, because, like, if you were to listen to it, it's like at first glance earlier, it does line up because we do things in a certain order. And so we'll do our intros, which all lines up, and then we'll like start talking about news where it's like basically me and Jeremy are quiet while Parker talks, and then later on I'll start talking about our main topic. But then like later on it's like, well, we're talking about movies while Parker is doing a comic corner, and then it just goes off the rails. So it's like, well, there's parts where you're like, yeah, I could see how this is supposed to be an episode. And then like later is when it gets off track.
That would be amazing to have released that, and people are like, "We don't understand."
It's like you ask a question and get a response that's not even on topic,
No.
and then everyone's like, "Good point." And you're like, "What is happening?"
They're talking
Like
about
if I had
tactics
only
cards,
if I had
but-
only mixed up Jeremy's audio, we might have never caught it because he talks so little. Like he could have just phoned in an episode, we wouldn't even have known. All right. Do we want to also talk about the data mine of the battle report?
What do you mean?
Well, I actually watched the whole battle report and posted the stuff that I found in the Discord. Do you guys want to add that to the news or
Battle
just let people
report.
figure
Oh,
it out?
the battle report stream from last time.
Yeah.
Oh, there was some more. There's more in there.
Well, I actually watched it. Yeah, they didn't have everything. Scarlet Witch's spending attack is called Cruel Twist. It's range 3, 8 power, cost 6. And then the opponent does not add dice for crits or count them as successes. And then if she rolls a skull in her attack, it does pierce. Here, I'll just copy it. I have it all in the Discord.
Which in the general one?
Yeah, I'll add it.
Okay.
Oh, it's gray. Oops. All right, and then we have...
Cruel Sun.
All right, so all the sinister stuff isn't that important. Who has the what's it called? Tactics card stuff. Can you guys go check and see if we can find that?
I
mean,
looked. I couldn't find it.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked for it too. Could not find it anywhere. It might as well not exist. I don't. Cruel Sun.
Well, it's just that probably because it's fairly available, nobody has bothered to like spoil it.
hmm
Mhm.
What I didn't check Tabletop Simulator.
Why would-
Ooh.
To see if the cards got
Yeah,
uploaded?
because fucking they
I
do that
guess
shit.
that's fair.
Let me look at the MCP database. Would it be a cable card?
No, they're not that quick. At least I would say I'd be surprised if it was up already. Okay, I think that's all the stuff I found that wasn't already spoiled. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Go ahead and fill time or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna rearrange some of this here.
I'm actually gonna look on Tabletop Simulator and see if it actually got released.
Okay.
I'll just check.
So, when I said that Cruel Sun, I watch another anime that's a super duper Japanese anime that I don't recommend to anybody who doesn't like really, really Japanese anime. But on the
That's a
show,
thing. I understand.
yeah, on the show, it has one of my favorite like hero characters that I've ever seen in a show, because he is definitely the strongest character in the show, but he's not the main character, which I think is kind of interesting because in anime, you know, Goku is always the strongest character, right? And there's no one stronger than Goku because he's Goku. He always has to be the strongest, even if he's not the strongest. He's about to be the strongest. But in this, there's one anime. Oh my gosh, I'm just blanking on the name of it. It makes me really mad. It's one of those shows that has a really long name, and it's making me really mad. I'm looking for the name of it right now. I can't believe I can't think of the name of it. Oh yeah, Seven Deadly Sins. Is the name of
Oh
it.
yeah, I've seen that pop up.
Yeah, super duper anime. But one of my main characters is his name is Escanor, and he is just the strongest character in that universe. He's not the main character; he's just the strongest character. But the thing I love about him is he's cursed with basically he's a regular human that at birth, the amount of like magical power that he has grows as the day moves towards noon. So at high noon, he is the most powerful being in the universe, and at night he's just a human. At midnight he's just a human, and at noon he's the most powerful being in the universe. And he can't use his power. Like, he can't actually use it all, because if he does, he basically ignites a sun on the planet.
Wow.
And it's just like he can make a star. Like, he basically has the power of a star in his body, and he's just holding it in all the time, desperately trying not to murder everyone around him. If he lets out the power, he basically ignites a star wherever he is. and the move that he does is called Cruel Sun. And in Japanese, it's the only English thing that he says, because I guess there's no translation directly for that in Japanese. And so he just goes Cruel Sun, and he basically just points his finger. A star appears and destroys everything. Like that's what it does. I love the concept of that character. That it's just like he's the most powerful creature, but the thing is, he's only the most powerful at noon. Any other time of day, he's something else. But
at like 1:35, fuck that guy.
he's still very, very strong.
Right.
But I love the concept of. And in the show, they make use of that. At one point, they're like, well, the main character, who's supposed to be ridiculously strong, just got beat. So we'll just wait for noon. Oh, it's noon. Escanor, go kill the bad guy. And he just does. And that's it. Because nothing could stop him. It's kind of a One Punch Man kind of thing. But One Punch Man is the main character. And so we're supposed to, we follow him around. But Escanor is just one of the guys on the crew, and he just happens to be one of the strongest things. The strongest.
Yeah, I think the last thing you said about Dragon Ball Z was the correct one. It's that Goku is about to be the strongest character in any episode. I'd say in the majority of episodes, he's not the strongest character.
Right.
But you know that the story arc ends with him being the strongest. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a off season of how do we make him weaker or find another scary guy.
Okay, none of this stuff is in Tabletop Simulator, but they did add in the restricted extract card already, so it's updated.
Oh yeah, that's official.
Yeah,
like a referee.
Well, I was just checking to see how current it was. Very.
So I had to go to court today.
Oh yeah.
I had a traffic stop. I had to go and prove I have renewed my license because I let it lapse during the pandemic. So yeah, I basically went in and they were like, "Oh, you have a license now?" And I was like, "Yes." I showed the judge my license. They're like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Mm-hmm. And like, that's it.
Yep. Right. No, you fix that shit. They're usually cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so I had to get up at 7.
Oh no!
I had to go to the courthouse. Right. I work nights. It sucks. So I go to the courthouse. I get there at 7:20. I'm like, okay, well, court's not till 8, so I have like 30 minutes to talk to the prosecutor and see if I actually need to wait for the judge or not. And I was like, nope, there's no prosecutor. You just go to the courtroom and wait. But the doors don't open till 8. I was like, but court's at 8. He's like, no, court's at 8:30. But it says 8. It's like, it just says 8. It's actually at 8:30. I'm like, so I got up at 7. I didn't need to. I could have got up at 8. So I get into the courtroom at 8:04, and I'm like, all right, now I'm just waiting. So I wait till 8:30, then the judge comes out and sits at their desk, but now it's more of like a computer terminal than a desk. There's like 4 monitors and a phone and all this stuff, and then there's all the COVID shielding on top of that. Mm-hmm. And she gets on the phone, starts calling IT, and she's like, hey, we got a problem. So they spend 10 minutes trying to figure out what's wrong with the computers. And then they finally get the computers working, and we can overhear her because it's not a big room. And she's trying to get like Zoom to work. And I'm like, why are we trying to get Zoom to work? Everyone's here. And no, it turns out that the first thing that happens at traffic court is you have to wait for them to call all the people in jail. Because there's people that are in jail that have a court date too. And so instead of doing them whenever, because they're not going anywhere, they have to do this first. Because I guess it's like in order of offense, like severity. I don't know, I guess. And so we sit there for 30 minutes while they call all these different jails in the local area just to get the inmate on the phone who has, in addition to the fact that they're in prison, have also committed traffic violations. And so it's like, hey, you were caught. We have you for a no license. How long do you plan on being incorporated? But no one they called spoke English. And so there's 2 interpreters there to translate, and the translator like says all this jargon because they have to go through all like the rigmarole stuff, like, hey, I'm this judge, this court, blah blah blah, I'm calling you for this reason. And he's just sitting in like a small room with a lawyer, I guess. And so the translator says all the stuff to them, and it gets the whole sentence back, says that, he's like, I'm going to be here for a very long time, is all the response we got from the guy. I was like, does this need to be on speakerphone in front of 30 people? Like, this guy is clearly having a bad day. Like, what the fuck? And then she's like, no, I need, like, do you know when your arraignment is? He's like, I'll probably be here for at least 4 years. Like, what? It's like clearly this is not getting through well. And I was like, does this really need to happen first? So we sit there for 30 minutes while she talks to all these different people in jail instead of talking to the people that are like taking days off of work to be in court. It's like, yeah, it just doesn't seem super urgent. And every single one of the cases got continued till after June anyway. It's like, why was this the most important thing? They can't even show up to pay the fine. Anyway, so that was how I spent my morning. And it just ruined my whole day. Because when you get up after like 3 hours of sleep, it's like, what do you do with the rest of your day? You're just fucked.
Take a nap.
It's like, yeah, do I go home, go to sleep? Like get up at 3? Like, that's going to be a good day. Yes, my whole day was ruined.
By getting up at the wee hours of 7.
Yeah, that's pretty early.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I'm a little sad. I thought we were going to get one more spoiler today.
What were we going to get?
I thought we were going to get Scarlet Witch.
Oh, just like a full reveal.
Yeah, usually we get 2 by this time of the week. When they're doing spoilers, usually there's one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday afternoon. Although I think we basically know what Quicksilver does.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's missing on most of these guys is what their tactics cards will be. Like full reveals on that stuff.
Did you separate all this stuff?
Yeah, I sorted it into the, like, make it,
What the hell? But this is all split up.
So, for example, I put the Sinister Tactics card next to Mr. Sinister, because we know his actual card also. And I put the Quicksilver stuff next to Quicksilver's panel to play.
Well, but you had it labeled stream info.
That was just the first one, because Scarlet Witch didn't belong to anything, so I just put it there to remind me. We weren't talking about Scarlet Witch for any other reason. I guess I could put that at the end. It actually makes sense to go at the end.
Yeah. What?
This is good. It says, my yoga teacher ended class tonight with, you're not afraid of failing, you're afraid of letting other people see you fail. What other people think of you is none of your fucking business.
Fucking gospel right
What
there.
other people think of you is none of your fucking business. Whoo.
What are you laughing at?
It says some people picture the future like flying cars or Armageddon. I picture a 114-year-old Tony Hawk skateboarding on a vertical ramp made of glowing glass on the edge of the event horizon of a black hole. Boundless alien intelligence is watching to see if our species is worth saving. Every living human standing on their own roof, singing Goldfinger's Superman. Tony lands the 9,800 degrees turn.
What the fuck are you reading?
It's just somebody's random thought. Did you hear that, Jeremy?
Mm-mm.
No, he didn't.
Oh, it says some people dream of the future looking like flying cars or Armageddon. I picture a 114-year-old Tony Hawk skateboarding on a vert ramp made of glowing glass on the edge of the event horizon of a black hole. Boundless alien intelligence is watching to see if our species is worth saving. Every living human standing on their roof, singing Goldfinger's Superman. Tony lands the 9,800 degree turn.
Oh my god.
My favorite part is Goldfinger's Superman, which is just this super 90s ska song. It's just like everyone singing Superman while 150 Years Tony Hawk does a 9,800 degree turn while for aliens to decide if we're worth saving. Oh my god. Oh, I love that. Oh. It's not as good. It's not as good as It's a Me.
Yeah.
But it's good.
I like it to make a
I
deposit.
like it to make a deposit.
After
Hey!
that whole thing, like I was laying in bed that night, just thinking about that, kind of chuckling.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Just different versions of some dude just ramming marinara sauce in a fucking tube, just trying to shove it at some dude.
You just turn your shot back into reverse. You're like, here we go. It's like, no. Also, I love to imagine, like, how do you clean that? You have to have, like, a plumber with this weird snake machine come by, or just, like, replace the entire system.
It's horrible.
Oh, man. So, my last shop, I did HVAC sales for, like, wholesale refrigeration and air conditioning equipment and stuff. And we'd always hear these horror stories of, like, crime that does way more harm than good. Because, you know, the concept of, like, the reason you do crime is out of necessity, right? But then you see people that, like I can understand, like, you're desperate and you rob a convenience store or something like that crime makes sense to me because there's the need and then there's the causation, right? Mm-hmm. But when you see people like, yeah, I rip copper pipes out of buildings when they're closed and sell them to scrap yards. Yeah. It's like, you have to understand, like, you're getting, like pennies on the grand here. Like, it's so wasteful. It's like, if you just went up to the guy and it's like, I won't rip the copper pipes out of your walls for $8. Like, he would give you $500 to just go away. Like, the amount of damage that these people do to, like people would go in and they'd, like, rip coils out of air conditioning units, and it's like tens of $1,000s of damage, and the guy is getting like $14. Like, oh my god. Just steal, like, something from the building. Like, don't steal materials used to make an expensive piece of equipment. And so that's what, like, the pouring the marinara sauce down the tube is just, like, such a senseless crime. It's like you've just caused so much damage for no reason. Like, no one's benefiting here. Except Big Marinara, you know, they're making out because, you know, you bought that three extra jars of
Marinara.
sauce.
Prego's gonna dig that.
Yeah, ragu. I'm a ragu man. Jeremy gets it. He likes rustic.
Right.
Alrighty. Did you get a comic corner?
No, I didn't today.
Okay,
no,
so
I
no
didn't
comic
waste
corner.
any time. No,
all right. So when I go to you for comic corner later, what are you gonna do?
Whoop. I'll just sidestep away.
He's gonna be like, yeah. So I've got this really good one about Bucky and the Falcon.
There is really no.
And you just completely talk about the whole entire episode.
Yeah. Have you guys finished it?
Yeah.
No. All right. Parker hasn't seen it.
Mm-mm.
So Jeremy, go with a shot-for-shot retelling.
I will claim it. I will claim it as a comic corner, and all I will do is tell from start to finish the entirety of Falcon Winter Soldier.
Are you guys excited for Loki? Loki looks pretty cool.
I am super pumped for Loki.
I like that guy a lot. Like, he's cool. I like him a lot more than I like the other two.
You like Tom Hiddleston or you like Loki?
Loki and him playing it.
Okay.
Yes.
Both of they do a good job.
So did you guys watch the trailer?
No.
Yes. I've seen the new ones too.
Do you want me to tell you what the trailer makes it look like?
Go for it.
So spoilers, if you don't want to see the trailer, stop listening. It's basically when he uses the Tesseract to escape in Endgame and he goes away in the alternate timeline, he creates this, like, timeline, like, paradox problem. And so he gets the, like, time cops basically mad at him. And so they come and arrest him and they make him work for them to fix the plot holes in, like, the timeline. It looks funny. Like, so it looks pretty funny. If you saw Umbrella Academy, it looks kind of like that.
Man, I couldn't get into that show. I wanted to.
Really? It is really weird. You have to make it further. Like, yeah, the first few episodes are just like, I don't give a shit. But yeah, the whole time cop thing from Umbrella Academy was like the only saving grace for me,
This is
and it was still kind of weird.
That kind of I also seen that trailer, and that kind of scene is exactly what you want Loki to be in. The best stuff I've ever seen him is when he is forced to do something that he doesn't really want to do. That's like the best. Those are the best Loki storylines. Yeah, I am so excited for Loki not being able to do what he's supposed to do in the new Infinity Wars. Infinity War happened again in the current Marvel universe, and in the most recent one, Loki, that's like Loki's storyline is he's really mad because he doesn't know who's fucking with him, and so the whole point of it, he's just trying to figure out what's going on, and he gets really mad all the time because everyone treats him like shit. Like everyone doesn't like him, and no one is scared of him. That's the other thing. This weird
He
thing
gets
is
no respect.
yeah, he gets no respect at all. Like he is totally the Rodney Dangerfield of the Marvel universe right now, and I think it's absolutely weird. I think it's a really weird turn because he used to be this like super serious, super evil Marvel villain, and now he's not really the whipping boy because he also saves the day on a regular basis, right? Like he actually does like save the day, but it's always as a gosh, I guess like here, have it, and he walks away. That's how he saves the day.
It's kind of like that moment you realize you're the adult in the situation and you're going to have to fix this problem.
Right.
It's like, is really no one else going to deal with this?
Yeah.
And you're like, God damn it.
Yep. He's also I think they've actually done a really good job. They've made him a lot like a mythological trickster character, kind of like the coyote in a lot of the Native American traditions. That whole character, like he is a hero, but he's a hero for his own purposes, and it just turns out he's a hero also. Like he is selfish, but at the same time solving problems and desperately needed to solve those problems. But because he's so selfish and everyone knows it, they don't treat him with a lot of respect. He's it's good stuff. I am really, really excited for this show.
Cool. All right, I guess we'll get started then. We're gonna obviously do all the news, and then we'll go back into rating some cards, unless somebody has something else they wanted to cover. We still got a little bit of rating to go.
Do we want to change any ratings of cards after they got banned? Does that change it? Or are we going to do that?
What was it? So you think all you've got being restricted is going to change its rating?
And Hired Muscle. We've done both of those.
We didn't rate Hired Muscle yet.
Oh, okay. Well, all you've got to change its rating.
I don't think so.
What?
And even if it did...
Yeah, it got like an 8, right?
Yeah, it got an 8.
That's
probably just
that's
there.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I do want to do a re-rating episode, like I said, where everybody like comes up with like something they want to re-rate, and then we'll just go around the table. Like, I nominate this card, and we'll just, once someone nominates it, we'll just re-rate it right there, give it 3 new scores, and average it out, and put a new number in.
Deal.
And we'll just do that for the whole episode.
Yeah.
But I want to have pretty much everything that's been out for a while done, and we're really behind on the Tactics cards because we've kind of been waiting. And then we'll probably go through and do some more characters, and then we'll do the re-rating episode. I'm gonna put in an alternate topic today as well.
What's TTC?
None of your business.
That's not how you spell none of your business.
Alrighty. Well, that was a mess. I don't think I've ever had so many timestamps on an episode before.
You needed a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
A challenge of challenges.
Now Parker's going to tell me that he hasn't been recording this whole time.
Oh
Nope,
my
I'm
god.
good to go.
Parker frantically checks Audacity.
Yeah, right now, as fast as I could.
Good news, your probation would have ended. Abruptly.
Yeah.
Very abruptly. All right, we got some cool new spoilers. That was fun. Unexpected new spoilers.
Breaking news.
I actually take a look at the Warpath card. I actually like it.
It's very simple and does a thing. I mean, and cheap.
I don't think it's worth it. Is it? Do you really think it's worth it? Aggressive is annoying, but like, man, that is not a powerful effect. for a tactics slot. I think you have the new shine on it, and you haven't realized how not good it is yet.
Yeah.
Like, think of a time in a game where that would have dramatically impacted the game.
And that's the problem. That's the problem we were talking about. It's not all you've got. It's not, mid pack.
If it was like move medium in any direction, I could see that card. But like, because it's move short towards the attacker, right? For one. How does?
It's not field dressing, so who gives a shit? That's the thing I don't like. That's the thing I don't like about this.
Maybe Colossus will just be so good that you'll like anything to get him into melee will fix the problem. Oh, who's the Luke Cage actually might like that though, because they're already attacking you.
Well, think how fast Sabretooth could be.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm coming at you. And then you play Weapon X training. Just like, get him. Get bounce.
Turn 1, he's on the backside of their board edge. You're like, what?
Well, what I'm thinking about is like, what if you had Luke Cage who bodyguards by being within 2 of the enemy? And so if like, hey, you get hit and you're like, oh, I play Warpath and move closer. That way I can bodyguard, but they're already attacking you. Like if they wanted to attack somebody else, they would probably be attacking somebody else.
I mean, it's only good again. It's only good to go against a couple things, and Shuri would be one of them.
Right, but you're playing a tactics card to negate one of Shuri's attacks.
Maybe that's all you need.
And only if it damages you?
Maybe that's all you need.
Maybe that's all you need. Maybe you should just play Sabretooth instead.
No, the problem really with it is for 2 more power, you can basically do exactly that, except go anywhere on the board. Short. I mean, it's like...
Well, this is as a reaction, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, if I told you for 1 power and a tactics card, you could emulate Crossbones' second best ability, would you do it?
Absolutely. No questions asked. I already
Show
did
me
it.
the money.
You know who I need to emulate? Weak Crossbones. That's what I need.
I do it every day of the week.
On
Sunday.
This is the thing I don't like about the tactics cards of this game. It's just, are they one of the restricted cards? Oh, they're not. Should they be restricted? Oh, they're not. Okay, well then, trash. Another thing to prop up a corner of my table. Like that's.
Yeah. Oh, so are you guys coming to the event on Saturday?
What time is that?
It's from 2 to 6.
It's this Saturday?
Hmm?
Do we have to wear masks?
No.
Ooh. Actually,
May 1st.
Actually, I probably will. I'll probably be there.
You do have to French kiss everyone you meet, though.
By French kiss, do you mean smile and wave?
No, you have to put their entire foot in your mouth.
Oh.
I think that's the exact translation.
Out at Scout Camp, I learned what French kissing was, and it was had to do with buttholes. Is that what you mean?
I bet the Scout Camp you went to, that was how they did it.
It seemed inappropriate, but now I understand that it was right.
Now it just feels very freeing.
Freeing.
Because I'm never ashamed anymore. It's like the Ass Penny skit. He's like, how are you so confident? Well, every day for the last 12 years, I've been shoving 2 rolls of pennies up my ass.
Oh my God.
Like, how does that make you more confident? Every time I go into any store, I leave 2 pennies in the jar. And so, do the math. Over the last 12 years, odds are everyone within 30 miles of where we're standing has touched my ass pennies. And that gives me amazing social power over them.
Oh
like,
my God.
Just think, you can never be intimidated by someone who's handled your ass pennies. Like, it's just not possible. So, there you go. You'll never be nervous again.
Good tip. That's a life lesson.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm moving
God.
up to quarters soon.
Oh my.
I'm surprised you've never seen the Ass Penny skit.
No. What was that on the?
One.
Is that just on the internet?
I want to say it's like SNL or Mad TV. I don't know. It's an older one.
Why?
One of my favorite all-time skits is actually with Alec Baldwin. It's the Change Bank. Do you remember the Change Bank?
No, I don't.
Basically, there's this like little like mom and pop bank in this small town, and this like big CEO looking guy in this nice suit comes in. He's like the new manager of the bank. He's like, "We're gonna turn things around here, guys. We are gonna dominate the market." And he's like, "Oh yeah, what are we doing?" He's like, "From now on, we only make change. It's like, what? It's
Oh
like,
my
what do you
God.
need? 2 5s and a 10, give me a 20. It's like, he just starts going through all these different, like, ways you would break a 20 or, like, $1 into coins or smaller bills. And they're just like, how do we make money? He's like, you want to know how we make money? One word. Volume. It's just like, everyone's like, I don't understand. And he's just like so intense that nobody is like saying it's dumb. It's just like, and then just eventually the skit ends. That's all that happened. Is like they've converted their bank into only making change.
God.
I loved it.
So I was hearing that your phone game got broken recently. Is that true?
Oh, Marvel Strike Force, the new update went live yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait, no, it didn't. They released an update or a message on their social media account. That's how you know it's official. That they've decided to push the update to today
Uh-huh.
because yesterday they realized that there was a bug with the new like subscription event thing, the Strike Pass, which is like a monthly event.
Yeah.
And they realized that because there was a bug that happened on day 1 last month, that they should probably fix that on the first day of the next month.
So they waited 31
They had
days.
28 days. Well, they do it in 4 weeks, so it's 28 days of time. They did not fix the bug because it was preventing people from purchasing it. If they bought the pass, it would give them something else because there was some like link broken in their system. They basically just typed in the wrong code and gave people the wrong item. This is not an uncommon event in this game, unfortunately, at this point. It used to be unheard of. Now it happens every day. Like, whoever is in charge of their quality assurance is just idiots. But anyway, so they pushed it to today, and then instead, normally when they do their new launch for a update, they take the game down, and then about 20 minutes later, they push the updates live in the app stores. And there's 3 app stores. There's the Amazon store, the Google Play store, and the iOS store. So what they did instead is they decided not to take the game down and push the app launches early. And so Amazon and Google Play both got the new versions of the app in the store, at which point people started downloading them and installing them in their devices. That version is not live yet. The version that they've updated the app stores with is not the current game because they never took the game down and upgraded it. And so we're still playing like the .2.1, and the .2.3 is the one that's supposed to come out today. It's actually supposed to come out yesterday. And so people have installed the new version of the game, and you can't do anything. Like, you're screwed. You can't open the game. And so you can't, like, close it and uninstall it because the only way you could download it is to go to the App Store and download it, which is currently the 2.3, which isn't live. And so if you downloaded it, like, every other time they've done a patch you have done, you're screwed. And so people can't get into the game. And this happened at, like, 4 p.m. today, and it's now past midnight. And so...
Wow.
The game still hasn't gone down for maintenance, and it was supposed to go down for maintenance yesterday at noon. So, yeah. So if you haven't installed the new app, then nothing's happened, but all the events aren't happening because they're all coded in the new version of the game. So all the the daily stuff is like broken and not working right. It's just a mess.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just stupid. Like, the people in charge clearly are just not doing their jobs because it's like every day it's degrading complacency. It's like you get used to a certain set of standards, and then like you slip a bit, and then you're like, oh yeah, well I'm just not going to wear a tie to work anymore. And then the next week it's like, well, I'm not going to button the final button on my shirt anymore. It's like, well, I'll stop wearing my blazer. Next thing you know, you're showing up in with plastic bags for shoes. Like 3 years later, it's like you've just quit giving a fuck about quality at all.
Yeah.
No one has ever enforced quality with you. And we got to the point where there's constant typos in the offers and the events. And because you've played this game, do you remember any of this?
No.
This is how quickly it's degraded. Like every day there's something broken. Like there'll be an offer in the store where if you buy it, you get the wrong item. And it's like there will be an event that just doesn't work. It's like I go into the event and there's no event missions to do. There's just nothing there. It's empty. And oops, sorry, not our fault. Something broke, and it's not our fault. And then the next day, there's this new milestones. You play missions to get points, and then the points get you milestones, which get you free rewards basically for doing stuff in the game. The milestones are pretty basic concept in phone games. but the milestones were miscoded to be like 20 times harder than they were supposed to be. So like you get 6 points for doing a mission. The first of 20 milestones was 1,200 points. So you have to play like 5,000 missions to get the daily rewards maxed out, which is just in a like 5 minutes times 5,000. It's very unrealistic. And so they just said, they just never mentioned it. Like, hey, we realized the event's not working correctly, and then never did anything.
You're like, it's broken. They're like,
yep.
Guys,
still not working. Yeah, it's just a mess. And it's just like every day, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Like, new character comes out, and if you use one of their abilities, the game crashes. And it's like, we're aware of the bug. Please use low graphics mode. Like, what? Like, how did no one playtest this character? He's the new big deal. Like, this is supposed to be one of the biggest characters released in like 2 years. And it's like, you get him, and he's pay only. Like, you have to spend money to get this character in the game currently. And then, oh, by the way, if you use his good ability, that this is the reason you bought him, the game crashes. It's like, how did this not make playtesting? No one used his ultimate? I disbelieve that. It's like, no one played on high graphics mode? No, you clearly knew this was a problem and just didn't deal with it. It's like, we'll just not worry about it. And so it's just been that every day for like 2 or 3 months, it feels like.
Wow.
It was getting so bad because when they mess up in the game, what they usually do is compensation. It's like, hey, you couldn't do your daily raids, so we're going to send you a day's worth of raid rewards to make up the fact that you couldn't do your raids. And so they call it compensation. They just email you the stuff. It's gotten so annoying and backed up. There was like 4 compensations we were waiting for at once. Like, hey, we did this huge event, which was like a spending money event, which was hugely unpopular. They announced the event. You were, I think, still playing when this happened. It was called the Lunar Event. Basically, you had to spend money to do anything in the event, or else you were basically just this worthless piece of crap. And so the Lunar Event comes out, and you basically have to... The rewards are ridiculous. Like, they did the math. You'd have to spend like $80 every 3 days to max out the event, which is very unrealistic for people. And so it was hugely backlash, and immediately they dropped the requirements down by like 30%. Like, it became much easier for most people to do. And then they did not realize that you don't actually need to complete this to get the rewards. You can just join an alliance that has completed it and gain the rewards.
Nice.
So there was this, and there were people making YouTube videos like, all you do, you literally just say, hey, I want to join your alliance for an hour. You join the alliance, and you just hit claim, and it gives you all the stuff, and you leave. You literally never do anything in the event. You just max out the rewards that people are spending hundreds of dollars to max out because they're whales. And then you just get all the stuff. And so we were getting, like, it was... Like, if you were to spend dollars, which obviously is always a bad value, but if you were to spend human dollars to get the stuff they emailed us from that, it would have been, like, $1,400 worth of rewards. Like, it was an absurd amount of stuff they had to email us to make up for the people that got that the people that didn't exploit the system. And then, but there's just so much stuff backing up. And it's just like every day something's broken. And then the lead developer goes on an interview with 2 of the popular streamers, and his justification for why there were bugs were, well, there's only so many game engineers we employ, and so we can't have them working on bugs all the time. Like, we can't pay them to read the offers that we're sending out to make sure that they're actually correct. Like, we released this new character, White Tiger, who's like a mystic ninja, and then, oh, by the way, we're giving skill gear out with her because the person that programmed it didn't know that she was a mystic character. And so they're selling you a $35 pack that comes with the character and a bunch of gear they need, and it's the wrong gear. And so it's just like, and of course people that play the game realize this, so no one buys it, even though that you'd have to be ridiculous to buy that offer anyway. It's just like, and then there's like, oops, and they just never address it. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, how is this happening? It's just very annoying. And so the guy goes on the site or the video, they do an hour-long interview with the guy, and he basically, every time they ask him why something's broken, he's like, well, we just don't have enough people to keep up with our release schedule, so we probably just need to do less stuff. And if we release things slower and do less things, there will be less bugs. I'm like, that is factually correct. If you do less things, you will make less mistakes. Like, what the fuck?
If you do 0 things,
Yeah.
be 0 mistakes.
So if you do 100 things and 91 of them were mistakes, and then you do 9 things, less than 91 of them will be mistakes. And then we were like, and then the interviewers, the people that play the game and stream on Twitch, asked him, was like, so the game made $300 million last year. Is there a reason you're like restricted on how many engineers you can hire? And he's like, well, it's very complicated. Like, what the fuck? You dumbass. It's like he looked like a complete tool during the entire interview process. And during half of it, one of the more popular people in the state, he goes by Remenex on Twitch. And he's just kind of like doing the Ben Affleck stare, like just looking down, like during the interview.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I don't want to answer or ask any questions anymore.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, those always suck when you spend real money and like put so much time and energy into it.
It is sad because the game's I actually have a lot of fun playing the game, but it's just like, why is everything always broken? Like, it wasn't like this when I started playing, and I haven't even been playing for that long.